The NASCAR Peak Anti-Prix Series powered by iRacing.com has officially begun. It's all in control of Brad Davies in that 11 machine. Green flag flies. He's damn near banged up though. Now the 93 is going to push the 4 of Brian Day all the way up the wall. 4 wide down the super stretch point in the turn. And now the 93-39, the 3 machine goes around. Big trouble in the back. It's the race for the win up front.
Look behind him. They're 3 and 4 wide, trying to make a push to the front as the field gains speed in turn number 1. Kenny Humphrey, if he can rip it back to the start finish line, will win here at Daytona.
7 laps to go. As you love it.
Here we go.
You love it. The 1 gets around. The 5 gets around. Big choke.
We're into the month of June, and that means one thing. We welcome you to the 8th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series, taking place on the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve in the Ile Notre Dame at Montreal. Will Vinton along with Jake Cameron, and of course, before we go racing, we first have to go qualifying, and that is what drivers are doing right now on this magical racetrack at the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve. 2.678 miles in length. It's got 13 corners, and Jake, today these drivers are going to have to deal with each and every one of them if they're going to get themselves a fast qualifying.
Yeah, as you say, Will, this track, one of the testingest, best tracks I'd say the drivers visit on this series. It's got the home straight chicane, it's got them tricky 4 and 5, 6, 7 and 8 turns. They're going to be something to watch out for this one. And not only that, the wind conditions as well are going to play a big part.
Track temperature, it's pretty cold today, 65 degrees Fahrenheit, a northwesterly wind of 10 miles an hour, and relative humidity, as you see there, I believe that is Johnny Tamana upside down. He hit the World Champions, is 46%. And indeed, we are getting word that that was Yorni Tamana there in the number 21 car who had some issues, but of course a number of people we've got to keep a lookout on. And of course we have got to start with that 3-time champion, that is the one, the only, the incomparable Gregor Houtu. And the thing with Gregor as well is he's just been dominant, as he normally is at this part of the season, Jake. Winning the last couple of races, he's on fine form in that number 1 Team Redline car.
Yeah, Gregor not really getting the best of the start to the season though. He had that earlier win in the season, but then he sort of went downhill and he had a little spell where he lacked confidence really, I thought, Will, and suddenly he then just brought that confidence back at, I think it was Phillip Island, where he then took that race win off of Hugo Luis, and that really brought his confidence back, and since then he has just been dominant in the last 3 races.
Working on board of him as he comes down into that final chicane. On the right hand side you will see that War of the Champions. It is going to be so close, and you see Houtu almost hitting the Wall of Champions there. Currently scored in 19th position. Where does he go as he comes past the line? Gregor Houtu there does a pretty good lap time, you're going to have to say there, Jake.
Yeah, not a real bad lap time there for Gregor Houtu, but an okay-ish lap time. So he's going to be looking to improve on that, as drivers only choosing to do 1 lap on that set of tyres at the moment from what I can see.
Yep, so Hutu's now on what is going to be his flying lap as he comes down into the first of many chicanes here. Underneath the GoDaddy bridge he comes, and he'll work himself down towards the second chicane. Now this actually is one of the most difficult parts of the racetrack, Jake, because you've got that high curb on both corner entry and corner exit. You see Hutu getting a little bit slidey out of the corners. He comes underneath the octane bridge. So Hutu works himself out of the final corner past the start-finish line. What time will it be there for Gregor Hutu? The answer is going to be, we'll find out in just 1 second's time, it's going to be P7 for the time being for Gregor Hutu. Right now, on top, it is, we are getting word, a number of drivers have done their qualifying times. So just trying to see who is leading right now as they are working themselves through qualifying. We are getting word, actually, it's Yuhu Abe leading in that number 30 car. And Yuhu Abe has done his lap. That was a 1 minute 13.459. Oli Picardo provisionally in the second position with a 1 minute 13.508. We're going to have a quick look at Andre Borcher, because he's just coming past the stripe right now in that Friday Motorsports car. He does a 1 minute 13.582 for his flying lap. Looks like he's going to try and have one more attempt. But a lot of these drivers have already done their times. Andre Borcher is on the racetrack. Gregor Hutu is still on the racetrack. We'll come back and have a look at him high above right now, because it does look as though Hutu is getting very close towards the end of another lap. And this one has got to be good for him.
Yeah, it really has got to be a very good lap for him. He needs to set a quick lap time to get up into that top area, really. He's not really done much this season, shall we say, Will, but he's sitting P3. Fifth there for Hutu, actually.
So here comes, there's still a couple of people on the racetrack who have got themselves timings to do. Kazuki Omishima in that running racing team you see down the side of his car. He comes underneath the octane bridge for the time being. We're going to go on board of him and see what he is doing in his car right now. But this track is so physically demanding on tyres, on brakes, on everything. And these drivers have got to really pay attention over the course of all of the running here today. So we're working on board with Omishima. Now we know how close Hutu was to the World of Champions, or his first qualifying laps. Let's see what Omishima can do as he comes down into that final chicane, really abusing the curbs there.
Yeah, really trying to get the most out of that car, and he's going to come across the line. It'll be interesting to see. Pole position!
Wow!
What a lap time.
Incredible stuff there by Kazuki Omishima, provisionally on pole position. But can Hutu respond as he comes down into that final chicane for the final time? No, he'll come onto pit road. So that'll be it for Gregor Hutu. Oli Picardo, he is on the racetrack right now, but he is also coming onto pit road. Got a couple of people still on the racetrack. Isaac Price right now in that iNext racing car, the number 38 machine. Currently is on the racetrack in that number 36 car. His last lap was a 1 minute 13.984. Now he works himself down this spike straight away. And for Isaac Price, of course, he had a great showing 2 weeks ago. Can he do the same again?
Yeah, great showing from him. He got his first ever WCS podium and also led his first ever WCS lap. So that's really going to be confidence that he's going to be boosting on this week, Will, because any driver that can get a podium in the WCS, you know, that's when they know that they are probably one of the best on the iRacing simulator. And Isaac Price, he's sort of taken that fight to the top of the drivers, and it wouldn't be long, Will, before I reckon we can see him challenging for the title next season.
I completely agree. Isaac Price there, he does a time not really improving himself too much. We have got just a couple of people still scored on the racetrack. We've got Oli Picardo right now. We saw him come onto pit road. Will he do the same again? No, he's going to actually go and do a lap in that Glacier Racing number 27 car to run through how things are right now. It is Omishima from Abe, so you've actually got yourself an all-Japanese front row right now. Then Andre Borcher, then Oli Picardo, Gregor Hutu, Sturgis Louise, Cronke Benito, and Barazini. They are your top 10. And I tell you what, you could not have put anyone any amount of money on having those two drivers, Omishima and Abe, on the front row of the grid as it stands. Just 3 minutes left to qualifying.
No, you really couldn't ever predict that, Will. That is something that I wouldn't be expecting to see this season, and especially being the number 30 and 43 number drivers in this series. So very interesting, but you've got to say that they have had some very good running so far this season. I think it was Kazuki Oshiyama who had a really good running at Road America, finishing in that top 15 spot. So he's coming on leaps and bounds, and same as Yuhu Abe, he's had the odd top 10 finish. So very good showing from them two drivers, and I think that's going to be it for qualifying, and them two are going to be the ones that take them that front row.
Hugo Louise is still scored on the racetrack, however. We will stick just for one moment's time with Ollie Picard, see whether he's going to improve, because Louise goes second for the time being. Hugo Louise goes up into the second position, just off of our screens. But what can Ollie Picard do? He comes out at the final chicane, working himself down towards the start-finish line, and for Ollie Picard, it is going to be no time. That is it.
Unlucky.
But it is going to be...
Well, what can you say?
Kazuki Omishima on pole position. We've got Timo Evening just coming out of pit road right now. This could just be some form of an installation lap, trying to make sure he gets himself a good start for the race. But Evening has done 2 laps, so he might actually get a chance to do one more lap. He might try and upset the party. I just don't think he's got enough time in the session left to do so, Jake.
There is still 2 minutes left of the session, I think, Will. So he has got enough time if he can get it round. If he can get round there quick enough, he's got enough time.
He's going to have to be careful, though, because, of course, unlike in certain qualifyings, once that time elapses, that is it. So he actually has to be at the start-finish stripe when that time elapses, not on his final lap. So we'll keep our eye out there on Timo Evening in that number 24 car. Of course, driving for iNext Racing as well. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, by the way, you can follow us on Twitter at RaceSpotTV. Use the hashtag iRacingWCS. Kazuki Omishima potentially here with pole position. Let us know your thoughts. Use the hashtag iRacingWCS. Stay in touch with us all race weekend long. Even then, down into the final chicane. We'll go on board actually with Timo Evening and see how he is getting on in his car. On board down into turn 1, Jake. This is such a difficult couple of corners. Left-hander, then slow it down even more for turn 2. Really got to hold that inside line, then you can get on the gas. But now, and Timo Evening already deciding to give up his lap.
Yeah, he didn't have enough time anyway, Will, when he crossed the line. We were already on 14 minutes 5, so there was definitely not going to be enough time unless it's going to be a new world record around the track, and I can't really see Timo Evening doing that, and it made a little mistake there in turn 1 and 2, so that didn't really help his chances of going any better. But what a qualifying. You know, you've got some really, really big upsets up there, really.
But I think the biggest of all of the upsets is going to be that driver in the first position. Kazuki Omishima in the number 43 car claims his first pole position in his iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series career with a time of 1 minute 13.315. Hugo Louise will line up alongside him in row number 1 with a second Japanese driver, Yuhu Abe, in the 3rd position. Andre Borgia 4th, Ollie Picard in 5th, Gregor Hutu in 6th, then it's Jake Sturgis, Martin Kroenke, Enzo Benito and Fulvio Barazzini. They round out your top 10 for the time being. Moving ourselves on to drivers 11 through 20. Alexei Yusiakola, a very difficult qualifying for him, but also Isaac Price in 15th position. After his disappointing, his great race even, 2 weeks ago, disappointing today in qualifying, Jake.
Yeah, really, really disappointing there from him, and I think he'd have expected more. I know he didn't really have that much to give last week, but he came home in 3rd position from consistency, really, and that's what actually gave him that position. He said after the race in the interviews that he didn't think he had the pace for the race, and in qualifying he said he didn't have it either. So he really has to show his consistency and pace this week, because that's not really a good qualifying session from the Glacier Racing guy.
It really isn't. Moving on to our 3rd page, Dion Burgess, Stephen Michaels, Ilka Hapala, Paul Ilbring, Paolo Amelia, Simon Cattell, Robin Friscott, Marcus Gatton, Benjamin Lindsay and Fabio Di Carmo. Their drivers 21 through 30. Total of 34 cars made the trip in qualifying, so there is a chance that final position is open for any driver who chooses to attempt it, Jake. So of course 35 cars makes up the grid in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series.
Yeah, and that also means we're going to see someone who's been trying to get into the grid for a long long while. We remember he put that brilliant lap time in 2 weeks ago at Watkins Glen, I think it was. Matt Backham. He's going to be on the grid for his first ever WCS race.
That's going to be really, really good for Matt Backham in the Lap Radicals team. We'll try and get a word of him and any other drivers between now and qualifying. But Kazuki Omishima, what a lap time we have had by that young Japanese driver. And let's be honest as well, he was half a tenth faster than Hugo Louise in the My3 ID car. That is a performance for the ages there by Kazuki Omishima.
Yeah, it's sort of strange to see someone beating the top guys like Hugo Louise and Hutu by such a big difference. He's actually 3/10 quicker than Gregor Hutu, who's down in P6, who's not had the strongest at qualifying. So Kazuki Omishima really having a good qualifying, and whether his race pace will be like that as well, Will, is something we'll have to find out. But very interesting to see if he can hold off and maybe lead his first ever lap in the WCS.
And we'll try and get you a look at the lap there by Kazuki Omishima as well. But very quickly, let's talk a little bit more about this track. We already mentioned, the statistics. It is 2.6 miles in length. It is 13 corners around, and also the weather is a little bit difficult here today. But the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve really kind of is where you get road course meets street track. And, it's hosted so many Grand Prix. It's always one of the most exciting Grand Prix of the year. And actually, I made a joke the other day that Monaco might be the jewel in the crown for Formula 1. But you've got to argue that Montreal is the person wearing that crown.
Montreal is an incredible track. The scenery, Will, is absolutely next to none. The water that surrounds the track just makes the circuit look 10 times better, I think. And as you said, it is like a road course / street circuit, and that's what I think makes the track different, because there isn't really a circuit that F1 drivers can get the best of both worlds, because some drivers are good on the street circuit, some drivers are good on the road circuits. So this track really gives the drivers the best of both worlds if they like the street and the circuits.
And so far for Hugo Louise, he had a great start to the season, like he did last year. He's now having a difficult middle part of the season, like he did last year. All of a sudden now, he's got the chance to actually come back to Hooton, because let's not forget, the last time we were here, which was the last round of the 2013 championship, Gregor Hutu didn't qualify in the top 5. Once again, Gregor Hutu hasn't qualified in the top 5. Could this be one of those momentum swingers once again?
Well, it is going to be a big momentum swinger for Hugo if he can actually make this race work. We've seen him in the last couple of races, Will, and he's not really been nailing his pit stops, has he? He's not really been nailing them and taking too much fuel, taking too little fuel at Road America as well. So he's got to get his strategy and his tactics right, and that team behind him, the 3ID team, are the ones that can do that for him, because being a 2-time world champion, he knows what it's like under pressure, and currently with a 40-point gap between him and Gregor Hutu, then, he's got to make them points up now, or come the end of the season, it's going to be too late.
It will be too late for him, and he's got to bear that one in mind. He's got to get points in the middle part of the season. That is the issue he made last time, and that is the one he doesn't want to make once again here. We are actually going to get ourselves now a look at the pole position lap by Kazuki Omishima. You ask for it, you're going to get it. So, we'll try and go on board with Omishima. We'll take you through a lap of this racetrack. And actually, no, this wasn't the one. We'll come back to that one in just one moment's time. Rather disappointing, that one. We do apologise for that one. But we will be back with a lap with Kazuki Omishima in just one moment. We'll get our replay up on your screen for you guys to enjoy. But that lap itself, I mean, you've got to come back to the wind conditions here, Jake. Because, there's that northwesterly wind of 10 miles an hour. And that has made things really difficult for these drivers.
Yeah, it says actually a westerly wind at 10 miles an hour to me, Will, so I don't know if you're wrong or...
We're not doing a Scott Woodward here, are we?
We can't mention him. It says westerly to me here on the iRacing service, so that's what I'm going to go with. But yeah, it is really going to make stuff very interesting at this track. I think it's going to give them a tailwind. Yeah, it will give them a headwind actually down the home straight, sorry.
Yeah, and that's going to be really interesting to see if we can get some passing down into that first corner. As I mentioned already, this first corner can be really interesting. Actually, let's get this look now. Hopefully it's going to work this time with Kazuki Omishima. And we'll go and have a look on board with him. Down he comes into that first corner. And really took a lot of the entry curve there, but was able to get out of it okay. Use that rumble strip on corner exit, then working himself down into turns number 3 and 4. Come down the hill, very careful. You can't hit that wall on the outside of the corner. Then you're flat out underneath the shadows. You come down into turn number 6. It's that left 90-degree corner, then leads into the right 90-degree right-hander. Use the curve again on the right and left-hand side. Come underneath the GoDaddy bridge. Then this isn't a straightaway. It kind of arcs around. You can see it on the track map. Then you come down into the second chicane, use a lot of that sausage curve. You see just how loose that car was getting though as he was working himself on the racetrack. And now he come down into the hairpin, the slowest corner on the racetrack, one of actually the slowest corners in all of Grand Prix racing, down to just about 35 miles an hour. Then you build the speed back up once again, and then it's flat out all the way down until you get to that final chicane, which of course is infamous. It became infamous in 1999. The wall on the outside of this corner right here that says Bienvenue on Quebec, and you see Omishima just throwing that car in there, Jake, but somehow he was able to get it all together.
Somehow, yeah, he was actually managed to hold it. Great piece of driving from him, and a really, really good lap from him. And I think he'd be very, very proud of that lap, Will, because not only has he pushed that car to the limits and somehow beyond the limits, the way he's actually getting real loose in turn 9 and 10 and managing to hold that car. It's not something you normally see drivers trying to do, because it normally comes off in a crash 9 times out of 10. So very interesting to see his tactics there, but whether drivers will be going for that looser option into the race will be something very interesting, because obviously it's going to have a lot more wear on their tyres, and in traffic as well it could have a big effect if they were to get that wrong. But very good lap by him, and I'm very surprised to see what his race pace is like.
Indeed so. We had a chat with Alex Simpson from the Apex Racing team, and he said that, again, like most places, it's going to be a one-stopper here. However, there will be some drivers at the start of the race who look particularly slow. The reason for that is some of these drivers are actually trying to go as heavy on fuel as they possibly can. Now, these fuel tanks have about 120 kilos of fuel they can have on board of them. And some of these guys are thinking, well, actually, we know that we're 2 seconds a lap faster at the end of a run. Whilst we're in traffic and things are really tight together, we can afford to lose that deficit. So don't be surprised, I think, if you see someone like Hutu potentially try to almost falling back a couple of positions at the start. As long as they keep their wing clean, they could really come to the fold about lap 40.
Yeah, they really could, but then this is where if Hugo and his team are now talking in this little gap between qualifying and race, he's on P2 at the grid, Will. If he can get a really good start and he run on that lighter fuel tank for the first stint and get away out in front, he can really use that tank of fuel to get a big gap if he can get away. So very, very big tactics going to play into this race at the moment, and I think that could be a good option for Hugo Luis to take.
Indeed, it could well be. Continuing to have a look at the qualifying run there of Kazuki Omishima, the number 43 car, driving, of course, for the Ronin Racing team. And what a season he has had so far. It didn't start so well for him. He didn't even start the first race of the championship, Jay. Wasn't able to get that car onto the grid, wasn't able to race. But since then, we have seen flashes of brilliance from Omishima.
Yeah, we have seen real good flashes of brilliance from him. He's had some solid finishes, but then he's had some not so great finishes. And you know, I think that's all of the attributes. A good time, then they have a bad time, and that's how it will go between them. And soon they'll make that decision whether they're going to be that good driver or the bad driver, and that's where they sort of mature as a driver, I think, really well.
Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, as well, visit wcs.iracing.com for more information about the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series, as well as the NASCAR Peak Anti-Freeze Series, powered by iRacing.com as well. And Jake, we're just 15 minutes away from those lights going out at the start of this race. And of all the races I've seen so far this season, with Kazuki Omishima on pole position, with Yuhu Abe in third, with Gregor Hutu outside the top 5 and a very interesting top 10, and drivers outside the top 10 out of position, this is going to be a frantic first couple of laps.
Yeah, it really is going to be a very frantic first few laps. You're going to see the likes of Isaac Price. He's going to try and get FW31, he's going to want to get to the front. Aleski UC he's going to want to get to the front as well. And them drivers are all outside that top 10, so they're all going to want to be pushing into that top 5 area, really. Gregor Hutu, a lot of work to do back from P6, because he's got the likes of Oli Bakara, Andre Boschler, and Juhu Abe to get past. And not only that, he's also got his arch rival Hugo Luis to get past. And we all know Hugo's not going to make it very easy this stage in the championship, 40 points behind him.
And before we get ready to present our actual race coverage, it's also worth noting as well, these drivers are doing back-to-back races for the first time in WTS history. They're running today, then we'll see them back in 7 days' time at Silverstone. These guys have got a lot to do in a very short period of time, as we're showing you some of the sights of this beautiful racetrack here at the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve. These guys have got to be on it over the next, well, 7 days.
Yeah, drivers normally get 2 weeks to practice, so them 2 weeks are really a nice time. You can chill out maybe for the first week or so, and then really get back into your practice schedule as teams and drivers do. But this week only 1 week, so it's going to be straight off today, off the racetrack, and maybe have a rest Sunday and Monday, or just a rest tomorrow. And they're going to have to be straight back onto tweaking them setups, getting them race stints done, and getting that qualifying and the pit stops down to perfection. Because if they don't do that, then the top drivers are not going to get through anywhere into that top 5 in the series.
And the final question we're going to ask before we go to a quick break as we get ready for the race: can Omishima do it?
No, I don't think he will. I don't think he's going to have the race pace or the head. I think he's going to be very, very excited and a bit giddy at the moment, after getting that pole position, as some people are when they sort of make a big achievement like what he's just done. So I don't reckon he's going to have that race pace. I really don't. I think Hugo Luis could drive away with this one.
And of course, Hugo Luis starting in the second place. You see, one more time, I'm going to show you the results before we're going to step aside for just 1 moment's time. And then, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back with RaceSpotTV's exclusively live coverage of the 8th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series here from the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve. We will be back in just a couple of moments' time.
Simulated racing can be awesome, but it can also be kind of a free-for-all. Interestingly, auto racing faced the same problem in its earlier days. Whether it was on the back roads, the beaches, or the city streets, the racing was fun. But there was always a certain level of chaos and danger, until some folks came along and put some order to all of this. Stuff like official racetracks, regulations about weight and equipment, and enforcement of standards. That's what gave us high-speed excitement, fast-paced action, and photo finishes. That's when racing became racing. The guys over at iRacing.com have made the same transformation in the world of sim racing. Sure, they've got the most accurate tracks and realistic cars out there, but that's just the start. See, iRacing analyzes the performance and results of each driver in every race, so you can be sure you're always placed in races where the competition will be tight, and that those reckless drivers who ruin it for us all are kept in the pits. Not to mention that with over 45,000 active members already in their vast community, you can find races day and night, so you can always get in on the action. You can even join a league of your favorite series. And since updates are always automatic, you don't have to worry about software and can focus on the track. Zip up your fire suit and check out iRacing.com.
We're into the month of June, and ladies and gentlemen, that means we welcome you to the 8th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series from the historic Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve. Williams-Toyota along with Jake Cameron. Qualifying is in the books, and for those of you just joining us on iRacing Live, it is going to be Kazuki Omishima starting this race from pole position here today. Once again, we are racing at the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve, set on the Ile Notre Dame in Montreal. It's got 13 corners. The track measures 2.678 miles in length, and of course, there's that one corner that everyone always thinks about. The one that in 1999 was christened the Wall of Champions after not one, not two, not three, but 4 champions slid in to that very hard concrete barrier. Having a look at the weather for today, and it is 65 degrees Fahrenheit. With a northwesterly wind of 10 miles an hour and race relative humidity, well, today that is going to be 46%. And, of course, myself, Williams-Toyota, along with Jake Cameron. Jake, we are set for a fascinating race in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series here today.
Yeah, we really are set for an incredible race. What a grid we have. 34 cars making the trip to Montreal. Wow, what can you say? Matt Backer making his first ever WCS start. That is going to be incredible for him. Hugo Luis trying to kickstart his championship hopes again after some poor performances.
And don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, as well, you can follow us on Twitter. The reason to do that is you can just go to @RaceSpotTV, alternatively use the hashtag iRacingWCS, and we're going to very quickly have a look at confirmation. In fact, we won't do that just yet because it's all just gone a little bit wrong, so we'll come back to that one in just one moment's time. As far as the racing here goes, is that first couple of corners, you've got to be incredibly careful because there's virtually no runoff area. And of course, you'll remember what happened in 1999, car upside down on that infield grass of turn number 1.
Yeah, there really was a car upside down, and that's not something you really want to see in the F1. And you know, it's going to be a hard race for these drivers. It's going to take a lot of time and a lot of effort to get through to the front of the field. That is, you know, we've got a lot of drivers starting out of their usual starting positions. You know, we see Gregor Hutu down in P6, Alessia Usiakola out of the top 10. Also, Oli Bucara, he has a really good qualifying session. Will so very interested into turn 1. Will drivers be patient or will they not?
You can see qualifying up on your screens. It was Kazuki Omishima who was the fastest in qualifying. Hugo Luis will line up alongside him in that first row of the grid. Then it is Yuhu Abe in 3rd place, Andre Borgia in 4th, Oli Picard in 5th, and then Gregor Hutu rounds out your 3rd row. Moving on to that second lot of drivers, P7 through 12. Jake Sturgis having a very good time in qualifying here today. One of his best qualifyings in quite a while. But you've got to say, disappointing one to get in qualifying for Enzo Benito in that number 17 Team Redline car.
Yeah, another upset really there for him. He's had an okay-ish racing season, should we say. His races have been fine, but his qualifying sessions have just been absolutely poor for his standard, that is. And you know, I'm expecting a little more from him today, and hopefully throughout the rest of the season we'll see him maybe gradually eventually pick up his qualifying pace. But for race though, Will, he is really good in the race, and he does use his head, so it'll be very interesting to see if he can jump up the positions.
And then we're on our 3rd page of the screen. Mac Backham, you talked about him in the pre-race show. His first appearance in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. He'll be starting today from the 18th position on the racetrack, with his teammate actually just 1 place behind him, Yunus Sakurian in 19th, and then Mogar Philo, another teammate, in 20th. So the Radicals drivers right there together on the grid. And that's one thing you don't necessarily want at this race.
Expecting the lower drivers to allow them by, but whether it's going to work that way on the racetrack to radio communications is something we'll have to find out.
And then finally, having a look towards the rear of our grid, Paolo Emilia, Simon Cattell lining up in 25, 26, and Benjamin Lindsay, who's running today as well in that number 56 car. So keep an eye on him. Another rookie starting from the rear end of the field. And then in that last place is Johnny Tamara in that number 21 car. Had a very difficult qualifying. But just 1 minute left to go before we go to the grid. Let's show you the standings as they stand right now, because it is Gregor Hutu who is leading now by 40 points over Hugo Luis in the championships. We talked about what this means already, Jake. It means in no uncertain terms that Hugo Luis has got to get a victory here today.
Yeah, Hugo Luis really hopes that Hutu wrecks out or finishes outside of the top 10 in this one, because 40 points is a real big margin in these cars. That's a lot of positions he has to finish in front of his rival Gregor Hutu. So Hugo Luis really needs to make that early start, and as I said in the pre-race show, Will, if he can think about that suggestion of taking the lighter fuel load for the first run and getting away and pulling that gap on the rest of the drivers while they're all still sitting in traffic, like Gregor Hutu will be starting in P6, he's got a very good chance of winning this one, and if he can nail that pit stop and his team can also put the right fuel in for once.
And it's time for that traditional let's run up at the end of pit road and see whether we can get one more practice starting. And you see a couple of drivers do that. In fact, actually, I believe that was Hugo Luis just ran into the rear of Enzo Benito. He's not going to be too happy with that one. But ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to head down to the race grid. And what that means, we are going to go racing here today at Montreal. Who's your pick for the win, Jake?
Hard one to say, really. I would normally back Isaac Price, but being all the way down there in P15, it's not today. I'm going to say Hugo Luis. He's got to do it.
For me, I'm going to say Hugo Luis as well, but keep an eye out on Amishima. He could do it. If he gets a good jump, he's got the chance, Jake.
Yeah, he could cause a big upset, but I don't reckon he's got the race pace, Will. I really don't think he's practiced hard enough, and I think he's sacrificed that race pace for qualifying, as some drivers do.
One more time, don't forget, follow us at RaceSpotTV. Use the hashtag iRacingWCS to stay in contact with us all race long. You can see the drivers are now lined up on the start grid. The light about to come on top of the iRacing.com gantry, going racing today for 70 laps in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. Lights are green, and we are going here at Montreal. Amishima gets a pretty good start from that front position. Hugo Luis trying to go alongside him down into turn 1, but it's actually going to be Amishima who gets the jump there by Hugo Luis. Behind them, they're going side by side in the battle for the 3rd position, but it looks as though those top 4, 5, 6 cars are going to be line astern as they come down the hill for the first time, Jake.
Yeah, it really was. There was actually some action into turn 1. That was Michel Chesini actually got turned sideways. He managed to hold that car really well, and everyone else behind him had to slow up, and real great racing there, but they all managed to avoid that, and he's now racing back out on track. He's only lost about 3 or 4 positions there as Marty Patilla. Really great start from him. He then just goes by, and they're 3 wide down this back straight. Well, 3 wide into 2 wide now. Wow. They'll come down into this small, tight chicane, and that's where they really got to be sensible and single out.
Yeah, and they are almost going to be free wide again, running down the hill. You've got Eunice Curran, and I was saying this at the top of the broadcast, you've got to be careful with those teammates running so close together, and they're free wide. They all try to stop each other at the rear end of the field. Great racing going on. However, out front, it is Kazuki Omishima. He's going to lead his first official lap in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. He will come past the start-finish line. That is a lap led there by Kazuki Omishima in that number 43 car. You have to say, he's led a lap. He's also got a good jump of about 1.2 seconds right now over Hugo Luis in that battle for the second position. And Luis, in turn, has got a bit of a gap out, actually, over Yuhu Abe. But did I just see Omishima hit the wall?
I don't know, but Yuhu Abe sort of dropped back. I think Yuhu Abe took a spin in turn number 2, Will. Yeah, we'll get... I think Kazuki Omishima actually did touch the wall as well.
So we saw that on your screen there with Kazuki Omishima. Something's happened to Yuhu Abe as well. We're going to get a replay of that in just 1 moment's time. See exactly what has happened to him. And it's all action at the start of this. And a slowdown penalty. We're getting word there for Yuhu Abe. And that is going to be hugely disappointing for him. But you see, actually, I think Omishima has got some damage because he did cut the wall coming out of turn number 4, and it has allowed Hugo Luis to close the gap at him just a little bit. We'll go on board with Omishima. This will be an interesting way to see whether he's got any damage down into this final chicane. The Water Championship right hand side, he's really abusing that car, but it looks as though he'll be fine just for the time being.
Yeah, he will be fine for just the time being. And Will, I'm actually getting a slight hint of the amount of the gap he's actually been able to pull over Hugo Luis on that first lap, as he actually there cuts the grass. Luis is actually going to be able to close there. Is Kazuki Omishima running a 2-stop strategy, maybe? Because he seems a lot faster than Hugo Luis and Andre Boccia and the rest of the guys running back in the pack.
Indeed, so, it could be, or it could just be that he's a little bit lighter on a 1-stop strategy. We'll talk about strategy in just 1 moment's time, because as it stands right now, it is the 2 guys you see on the top of your screen. Kazuki Omishima leading in first, and then Hugo Luis in the second position. Yuhu Abe is dropped down into the 10th place after starting this race in third. Now it's Boccia in third. Hutu, Kroenke, Sturgis, Picardo, Barazini, Yakola, and Price. They round out your top 10. But you have to say that it does look as though that Gregor Hutu is all over the rear right now of, I believe that is Andre Boccia in the battle for the third position. And Boccia is a little bit of a train right now.
Yeah, Boccia really is slowing up that number 1 car of Gregor Hutu for Team Redline. He's going to be wanting to get by him straight away as they now come down into turn number 14 and 15. That will be the last chicane of the raceway, and they'll come through so close to that wall of champions. Well, so close. Gregor Hutu moves to the outside though. Will he try and make this pass into turn number 1? He will sit there. He's on the inside now. That's a textbook pass there from him, and Boccia will just let him by. Gregor Hutu now on. Oh! Really loose there. Big slide.
He keeps it going though. They're going to stay 2 wide as they come up the hill, almost 3 wide there. I believe that's Kroenke who's trying to look down. And Hutu, we talked about how this year he's actually been able to pass drivers. He's not done behind there.
Looking down through the field, Will, I actually think Isaac Price has had damage. Yes, that is correct. I did see an incident actually with him. He's obviously been down pit road. I saw an incident between him and I think it was, yes, the number 6 car of Folio Berrezzini. They both collided. I think it was in turn number 6, and that's put Isaac Price drop down the field. Now he's running into P29 and he was P10.
But Boccia is still fighting with Gregor Hutu. It's coming up. The gap between those 4 drivers, pretty much about 2 tenths of a second. And here comes Hutu once again. Will he look down to the inside and try and repeat the performance he did last time by? Looks like the answer is going to be yes, he will. Will he get the job done in turn 1? The answer is going to be no, he won't that time. Andre Boccia knew how to defend that position, and he was able to get the job done. But Boccia is really holding up Gregor Hutu at this stage of the race, because Boccia is already 7 seconds behind Hugo Luis in that battle for what is essentially P2 on the racetrack.
Yeah, he is already 7 seconds behind, but Hugo Luis is already 2.1 seconds behind our race leader, Kazuki Omishima. What a gap he has extended from over Hugo Luis, one of the top drivers in this series. It does really make you wonder, is he on that lighter fuel load or maybe a 2-stop strategy? But Gregor Hutu looking left, looking right. He's all over the back of Andre Butler, but he can't seem to get past. And looking actually down through the field again, Will, we've actually lost our qualifying P9 position driver, Enzo Benito.
Yeah, he was out on the first lap of the race. We'll get ourselves a replay of the start in a couple of laps' time. But these drivers all funneling through. You can still see just how close all of these drivers are together. Some good battles still going on the racetrack. Mo Garfilo, Rocco Baroni, they are running pretty close together right now on the racetrack. And the gap between those drivers is literally just about 0.4 of a second on the racetrack. Between Filo in 13th position and then Baroni, who runs in the 14th spot right now. And I think for Baroni, he's just trying to hold on for dear life for the time being. As you can see, he has got... in fact, we're looking now on Filo on Baroni, and these drivers really are close together. Eunice the Korean is in the mix there as well.
Yeah, they're all in that mix there. There's a really great battle going on. You know, there's actually battles going on along the whole track, Will. We've got a massive stack up for that P3 position, though. It goes from all the way from Andre Butler all the way back, really, to Aleski Usiakoda and Oli Picara. So very big stack up there for that third place driver. But this is a very interesting race already. Drivers like Mac Backham, what a start he's had. He's all the way up into P11 already, Will, from the P18 position.
Yeah, and we're having a look at that bright pink. It does actually look as though he has got a little bit of damage to his rear wing. So we'll have to keep an eye out on that. But that all bright pink car there on Matt Backham does have a little bit of rear wheel damage involved in the wars in the early going. But for the time being, it looks as though that he's going to be able to carry it on without too much of an issue. Let's go back, though, to your race leader. You can see the gap there. Hugo Luis only just coming into shot. But for Hugo Luis, he's now 3 seconds behind Kazuki Omishima in that battle for the race lead. Astonishing stuff.
Yeah, incredible lead there, but Gregor Hutu trying it up the inside into turn number 1. He's going to be on the outside of turn number 2, though. Butler really holding his position well. Will this allow Martin Kroenke through up the inside? Gregor Hutu cuts his nose off, though, into turn number 3. Very dirty from Hutu.
Hint, Hutu is in the wars here today. He has tried now for the last 3 to 4 laps to get past Andre Borchu without pretty much any success at all, running on board with him in that Team Redline car. And he has really been putting the pressure on, trying to get that move done over Borchu. It does look as though he's a little bit slower on the back portion of the racetrack. Turn 1 is his only real chance to make a pass.
Yeah, but on that back straighters, did we see a spinner there, Will?
Not quite sure. Did we?
I'm sure. Yeah, we did. I saw a spinner there, and that was... I'm sure that was Fulvio Barazzini. He's really crabbing down there now.
And we'll get ourselves a look at that once again. Fulvio Barazzini. And he's had a goodish season by his standards. It could have been a lot better, but we'll get ourselves a replay up or see what happened with Fulvio Barazzini in the number 6 Triple M car. Coming down into the second chicane, just looking as though he might have got himself... Oh no, that was Oli Picara! And actually then afterwards, Barazzini slid off the racetrack trying to avoid him and hit the wall there. Astonishing stuff.
Wow, that's put an end to his race because he's crabbing all the way down the pit lane, and I don't think his mechanics are going to be able to get that fixed. So that's going to be him retiring from this one. He was having a really good race from this though, but the battle out front again, Will. Hugo Luis now has a 10-second gap between him and his teammate Andre Boccia, and a 3.2-second gap between Hugo Luis and Kazuki Omishima. What an incredible drive by Kazuki, Will. I may have to take back what I said about him.
Yeah, and you can just see he's running on board right now with Hugo Luis. That is what the gap is from Hugo Luis, and it gets bigger and bigger every single lap. Hugo Luis is really trying to pound that pressure on right now, and I don't know what it's going to take. But of course, we do know that potentially Omishima might be running a little bit lighter on fuel. Not to the extent that would see him do a 2-stop strategy, but potentially coming onto pit road 4, 5, maybe even 6 laps earlier than the guys behind him. He'll have the race lead right now, but after pit stops, he'll be right there in traffic. Or it could just be that Omishima's having the race of a lifetime.
Yeah, he really is having a race of his lifetime now as Martin Kroenke looks to the inside of Gregor Hutu. He's not going to be able to make that down into turn number 1. Hutu not close enough either onto the...
Oh, there's a bit of contact behind him. That was a bit of contact behind him there. That is Jake Sturgis and Oli Picara. And that was down into turn number 1 on the racetrack. Let's see if we can get ourselves a replay of that one, because that was as the guys were literally working themselves down into the first corner of the racetrack. And Oli Picara, you can see from the rear board camera there, the two did come together Oli Piccardo went wide in the centre of the corner. Very lucky that that wasn't more of a difficult moment for those two drivers, Jake.
Yeah, really lucky, because that could have ended a lot. Gregor Hutu really loose there in turn number 9. Wow, incredible slide there coming out of that chicane. But yeah, that could have ended both their races and everyone else behind them if they couldn't have seen that accident quick enough. But very interesting stuff happening right now. Mac Backham now up into P10. He's now into the top 10 for the first ever time in his WCS career. But great racing all over the track. There is battling going on wherever you look. You've got a 4 or 5 car battle here for the P3 position that Botchler seems to be holding them up big time though, Will.
He really, really is. And that number 9 car, the 3ID Motorsports car of Andre Botchler, is really, really causing difficulties for Gregor Hutu right now. As they come down in turn 1, again, Hutu's not quite close up, but he tries to stuff it down the inside there. They'll be side by side as they run up the hill. But again, Hutu couldn't get the power out of turn 2. He has to slot in line once again there.
Yeah, these 3ID cars look a lot better out of that turn number 2 and up the hill into turn number 3. They look a lot quicker. They seem to have a bit better acceleration than the Team Redline car of Gregor Hutu. So very interesting racing and strategies going on and setups as we just see, I think that was Jeremy Bouteloup getting very loose there on the back straight. Very interesting to see him get loose. He's normally a strong driver in the first and middle sections of the racing, but Gregor Hutu must be getting really frustrated now, Will. He just needs to keep his calm though, because any mistake he makes could really, really put a big, big dent into his championship hopes.
And we talked about this a little bit earlier on, that for Gregor Hutu, many people said a couple of years back that he didn't know how to overtake drivers. I think this year he has shown with some bad qualifyings but good races that he knows how to overtake. He's actually going to look down to the inside. No, he won't. Down into the final chicane. But for Gregor Hutu, he's now just got to keep his head down and get that job done. In fact, no, he's got the pass done already there. He's already got the pass. They're going to be side by side down into turn 1. Hutu will be able to do the swing job, and there he is. The number 1 Team Redline driver has been released there, and now he will be up into that 3rd position on the racetrack. Great stuff, Jake.
Yeah, really great stuff from him. And looking at his lap times, his lap times have been very off pace. Well, 1:17s he's been running, and we just have a look at what Hugo Luis has been running. He's been running 1:16 deads throughout the start of this race. That is incredible. That is a difference of a second on the racetrack. So Gregor Hutu really being held up. He's now got, I think that's about a 13-14 second gap to make up between him and Hugo Luis.
Yeah, a lot of gaps to make up, but let's not forget, towards the end of a stint, if you stay out longer, then you can go 2 seconds a lap faster than your competitors. And we're just showing you that a replay of what was going on with those drivers on the racetrack. Let's turn our attention though back down to your race leader, Kazuki Omishima, because the gap is now up to 4.9 seconds on the racetrack compared to himself and Hugo Luis. Now last time by, it was a 1 minute 15.993 for Omishima, a 1 minute 16.5 there for Hugo Luis. And as we're going to chuck the fastest lap so far by these drivers up on the racetrack, Isaac Price has the fastest lap so far. Then it's Omishima. You've got to think potentially those two are, at this stage of the race, a little bit lighter on the race fuel.
I don't know about Isaac Price really, Will, because he did come down pit road to get his damage fixed that he had with that crash early on in this race. So, very interesting to see, because surely if he came down pit road as well, he would still have the same amount of fuel as what the rest of the drivers had. So, whether he was going for a lighter first stint as well, but Kazuki Omishima, I think he's going for a 2-stop strategy in this, Will, because there's no way he can be doing 1:15.5s and 0.4s throughout this whole race on the tank of fuel, because that means he's beating 2-time world champion by 0.5 of a second.
Omishima still leads away, and there you can see from our up above coverage just how big that gap is between those two drivers right now as they are scored on the racetrack to run then through your top 10. It is now Omishima from the West, then it's Hutu, but he's 18 seconds behind your race leader. Kroenke in 4th, then Piccardo, Borgia, Bouteloup, Sturgis, Yakola and Ilka Herpada. They round out your top 10. We have 4 retirees so far: Fulvio Barazini, Michele Sciazzini, Enzo Benito and Marcus Caton. They are all classified as out of the race, and they are not going to be happy bunnies, especially Benito after what's been a tough season for him.
Yeah, he's had a tough season, Will, and to be honest, this just sums up how his season has been. It's not been the greatest of season for him, so he's just going to want to come back next week for Silverstone with a fresh head and hopefully look forward to what could be a better race for him. But very unfortunate for also Vavio Barazzini. He had a solid start, but he made that contact with Isaac Price, which then gave him a little bit of damage, but then he swerved to avoid. It was the Glacier Racing Glacier Racing car, sorry, of Alessia Uciacola in that bright yellow and white machine. So very unfortunate for him, and this is some really great racing though, Will.
It is great racing through the field. We've just been on board there with Oli Bacana in the number 27 car, as he is trying to make a move right now over Martin Cronke, selling him up down the back straight away. Not quite close enough. Now, we have seen the best passing zone isn't down into that final chicane, but it's actually out of that final chicane, because wind difficulties mean that you can really gain a couple of tenths per second over your competitors, and that does seem to make things a lot better for these drivers if they can get a good run out of that final chicane.
Yeah, when watching Gregor Hutsu trying to get past Andre Butchler, he sort of used the last chicane 14 and 15 as a run-up to try and put the driver in front of him off a little, and then he'd get that run on the exit of turn number 15, and going into turn 1 you'd move to the inside, and that's where you just sort of get that run with not only with the draft but with the wind advantage as well. You sort of just drag past the extra driver there, and you know that's the best place to make the pass around this track, I think, at the moment, and it seems to be working for a lot of drivers.
On board with Jeremy Bootsley, because he had an issue early on in the going, but he's now trying to work on Andre Borcha in that battle for the 7th position. He's going to try and look to the outside there, down into the hairpin. Will he get the job done? The answer's going to be not quite close enough. But for Jeremy Bootsley, he really is hounding it on now to the rear of Andre Borcha. We'll go on board with him once again, actually. And you see now he tries to get that clean air, but it's not quite happening for him. Is that a radical car? It does look as though it is potentially using a little bit more downforce. A big wiggle there out of the final chicane as well.
Yeah, and here we go, what I talked about a minute ago. You look to the inside and, oh, really close there, really close contact, but well, near contact, should I say, between them two, as Buta loop all over the back of Borcha on the exit of turn number 2. Very unfortunate not to get that pass done there, but that's what I talked about, Will. You just use that drag and that side draft and the wind advantage as well to just pull you by into turn number 1, and it seems to be such an easy pass for drivers to make at the moment.
Checking down a little bit further down the field, you've got Dion Burgess battling with Robin Friscops in the battle for the 19th position. Ahead of them, you've got Yorni Tamala running in that 18th position right now, and those three drivers have been pretty much nose to tail for the last couple of laps or so now.
Yeah, them drivers have really been battling it out for that 19th position, and you know, I think this is where the battle for the best of the rest is actually starting to take place, because Robin Friscops there, Isaac Price will be there soon, or he's actually there now, and he was very unfortunate, but he has made a pit stop. So that's something we'll have to remember as well, Will, whether that'll play out into his favour later on in the race. I know he got a bit of damage as Simon Cattell just allowing Isaac Price there through. Or was that Robert Friscops actually? No, that was Friscops, sorry. My mistake, but looking to the bottom of the field, Will, in P25, Yuhu Abe, he must have got some damage actually from that first slowdown penalty he had, or something like that, because he don't drop that fast from P3 to P25.
No, and Yuhu Abe, after qualifying in his second best qualifying position, in 3rd place, he got a 2nd at Indianapolis last year in that crazy event. But Yuhu Abe right now, in that running racing team, scored in the 25th position on the racetrack. He's got Tamo Avenen ahead of him right now. These drivers, some of them have had very tough starts to the races, and this track can be notoriously difficult to overtake on.
Yeah, we mentioned it a minute ago, Will. There's not really anywhere to overtake except from turn number 1, where you set them up really well, but the back straight is a okayish pass to place, but very dangerous into that chicane if you don't manage to get it back down into single file racing. So that's where you could make that mistake, as we saw what Alessia Uciacola and who was the other one with him? Well, I forgot now, but he got it very wrong, and you know, there's been too much action in this race already. I'm forgetting what's happening.
Well, you see that the field all the way through is packed out, except out front with Kazuki Omishima. There is Omishima right now. 5.2 seconds is his advantage to Hugo Louise. For Hugo, This is now going to be a case of let's just be patient, because he's 5.2 seconds up the road, and Luis has been in this position before. He's won races from this position before. He's also lost races, and he knows that simply he's just going to make sure he nails that pit stop.
Yeah, he has got to nail that pit stop, Will, and his team have got to get it right as well. We spoke to him last week, and he said that his team put too little fuel in. And, you know, I spoke to him for about half an hour or so after the race, and I said to him, why don't you tell them to put how much fuel in that you want? And, you know, it should be your decision. I know they're working it out for him, but he should be the one that makes the final call. And he actually lost time as well, because he sat there and sat there and sat there waiting for them to put more fuel in, and they didn't do it. So that's where the communication between him and his team need to be finalised. And I hope Hugo has had a word with his team and told him that do as I say and put more in than less, because I want to be able to make it to the end of the race and I want to win this championship. And currently with the mistakes that team are making for him, he's not going to be able to do that.
And you cannot make mistakes, simple as that. And every mistake is so critical in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. Let's look back from Hugo Luis to Gregor Huttu, because he has started to close that gap a little bit. It's what, 13 seconds now between Hugo Luis and Gregor Huttu. That's come down a little bit. That last time by Luis was faster by 0.3 of a second. But you cannot discount Gregor Huttu as well, because he's always been the guy to go longer than most people. And knowing he was so far back, I've got a feeling that maybe, just maybe, he put as much fuel in that car as possible, knowing there's no advantage of him fighting too early on.
Yeah, Gregor Huttu really does go anyway.
Well, yeah, and it's that entire package which is the important thing. It doesn't matter if you can get qualifying done or pole positions done. It's all of it, which is so important. You've got to get it all together. And for Gregor Huttu, this is why he is a three-time champion, for reasons just like today. He started down the field, he had a bit of a tangle in the early going, he almost had his nose chopped off, but now, once again, he is back in position in that #1 Team Redline car. And last time by, yeah, he lost another 0.3 of a second. Those 0.3 are going to be a lot more important a little bit later on, once we get into the deep end of racing.
Yeah, it will really make a big difference and effect on this race. And you know, if he can keep consistent and, you know, Hugo sort of misses out and slows down a bit trying to save fuel maybe or something, you know, that's where it's going to make a big difference. And, you know, Gregor Huttu is the man to do that. So very interesting to see how this race will play out as we go to the 17 laps. As we're only now on lap number 18, Will, 19 now as they cross the line. So a long way left in this race. A long way to go. And of course, this is the Waller Champions, the famous Waller Champions there. Just having a look at Gregor Huttu. And you know what? We did a little bit of a trivia question on RaceSpotTV a little bit earlier on today. Who was the first champion, the first iRacing champion in an iRacing live broadcast to hit the Waller Champions? Let us know your thoughts. RaceSpotTV, use the hashtag iRacingWCS. Who was the first champion in an iRacing live broadcast to hit the Waller Champions? My clue for this is, think outside the box, because there are a couple of races each year where we put the people together from the NASCAR P23 Series and also the iRacing World Championship Series. Reveal that one at the end of the show. Let's go down the field a little bit, because there's a great battle going on right now between Mo Garfilo, Rocco Barone and Stephen Michaels. Those three drivers separated by just about nothing on the racetrack right now, and Michaels is desperate for another good finish in this series. Yeah, Michaels really knocking on the door now of them top 10 position finishes, and you know, I think he'll be looking to do that in this race. He's had some very solid races, and you know, with that team behind him, he can really start to push forward and maybe extend and push for a top 15, top 10 finish in the championship if he can make them consistent finishes that he's not been able to get so far. But yeah, really working his way out through the field and through the championship world. It'll be nice to see him progress into maybe one of the top 10 drivers in the championship.
Michaels currently runs in the 13th position. Ahead of him is Rocco Barone. And that number 28 IL team, not having a bad showing at all, but it does seem to be that he is being held up by Mo Garfilo just a little bit.
Yeah, Mo Garfilo seems to be holding him up in that Radical Steel Series car. The The Radical Steel Series cars seem to all be very, very quick around this Montreal circuit though, so interesting to see Philo actually struggling a tiny bit. And, you know, he doesn't seem to be one that normally struggles. Well, he normally is very consistent and he does think outside the box. It was him who did the 3-stop strategy at Watkins Glen, and you know, he's trying to make it work, but it didn't work for him. And you know, he's always thinking outside the box, so I think we'll see him think outside the box again at Montreal.
And then in that 11th position is Mogar Philo for the Radical Steel Series Simulator team. And Mogar, once again, having a very solid run so far, especially when you consider his qualifying time, because Mogar, he didn't have the best qualifying by his standards, but he's still running rather well in that number 10.
Yeah, not the best of qualifying for Mogar again, and you know, as I just said about him, he thinks outside the box. So whether he sacrificed the qualifying pace for the race pace, because he seems to be very quick in the race at the moment, Will. He seems to be very consistent around them 116 marks, low 116s, so he seems to be very consistent, and he seems to be on the heavier fuel tank as well, what most of the drivers seem to be running. So very good run from him, a very good start, making up 9 positions on the start of this race, as we're now only on lap number 22.
Let's talk about a new guy, Mac Backham, driving for the Radical Steel Series team. He's running in the 16th position so far. And I think about Backham, and I actually think back to the Indy 500 that took place a couple of weeks ago, and with Kurt Busch. The first part of this race, you've just got to keep your car running in one piece. He has got a damaged rear wing, you can see that there up on your screen, but he has got that car still running, and that's the important thing, despite him being down outside the top 15 for the time being.
Yeah, when you say Mac Backham, I actually think back to last week's Neo GT event, Will, where he decided to run out of fuel and get pushed home by his teammate. I actually think back to that, but very good racing from him. He seems to be very consistent in whatever he races. We've seen him in the Neo GT series, been very quick, setting pole position lap times and running in the top 3 throughout the race, and just to finish the race.
And you see that Paul Ilbrink did actually get past there in that number 29 Radicals car, moving him now up into the 16th position on the racetrack. But let's go and have a look at 2 other teammates, Oli Picada and you see Yakoda, and is Picada going to go past there down? I believe this is into the hairpin. The answer is going to be yes, he is. So Oli Picada gets a jump there over his teammate, and now Picada's up into 5th. Yakoda is down into the 6th position on the racetrack.
Yeah, Yakoda not having one of the strongest races. I said to him last week, he said to us as well, he said he's not looking forward to Montreal, not one of his favourite tracks, so he's just going to allow his teammate by, who's maybe a little more confident around here. As you see, just watch him there, coming out of that last chicane, turn number 15, he doesn't get as close to the wall of champions like the rest of the drivers, so whether he's not confident with how his car's going to handle and maybe it's going to push out into the wall is something we'll have to ask him about at the end of the race, but he seems to be a little off the pace to his teammate, Oli Picada.
Tell you what, one person's having a good run right now is Jake Sturgis. He's very close now to the rear of Jeremy Bootsloop in what is the battle for 7th position on the racetrack. Bootsloop in number 19 car has got, and you see Sturgis looking down to the inside there, will be in the outside for the next corner. Wasn't able to get it done, but Sturgis is looking racy, and he had a good qualifying, but he's running 1 place down from where he started right now. And Sturgis is really trying to put the hammer down. Again, trying to look down to the inside. Almost there. Almost trying to get that job done over Bootsloop.
Yeah, looking down the inside there into turn number 9. He didn't really have his nose up the inside, but now he's going to lose out to Andre Bocciolati as they come down into turn number 11. No, he won't. He'll have the inside line. He's just going to say, no, no, you can stay behind me. And he's still going to be out. He gets very loose there, though, on the exit of turn number 11. They'll come down this long home straight now as they'll come down into turn number 13, then 14 and 15, then into the start-finish line, and not really close enough now to make a move. As someone's actually gone down pit road.
It's Bootsloop. He's onto pit road for the first time. So he's the first of our drivers really to make that journey onto pit road. And he's coming in very, very early, you're going to have to say, Jake.
Yeah, lap number 25, very early. Whether he's been running on a short stint of fuel or maybe he just wants to get out of that racy traffic of Jake Sturgis, because he nearly did get passed by him, and you know that's not the thing you really want to do. And we do see him a very, very good driver in the middle stint of a race. Well, he is the man to watch in the middle of a race. So it'll be interesting to see, as he didn't take tyres. That's just a fuel stop.
just a fuel stop there for Jeremy Boutulib, and of course 46 laps of this race still to go. He will get himself back out onto the racetrack, but Jeremy Boutulib, 9.3 seconds there, his first pit stop of the day. Long
yeah,
pit stop.
Definitely a... Yeah, it's sort of very interesting there. He didn't take tyres from my viewing and watching that, so very interesting to see what his sort of strategy is in that Radical Steel Series car. But looking back to the front wheel, a 7-second lead for Kazuki Yamashima over Hugo Luis, and then Gregor Hutu has closed the gap on Hugo Luis. The gap is now down to 10 seconds on the racetrack wheel. This is going to be an incredible fight towards the end of this one.
It will be. We are still having a look for the time being at that battle between Sturgis and Borcher in what is the battle for the 7th position on the racetrack right now. And it's about 6 tenths of a second. I think actually now Sturgis got some clean air. He might be able to pull away from Borcher. I think the only reason why Borcher was able to go to the outside of him in the hairpin just a couple of laps ago was probably because of the fact that they were all stuck there right behind that car of Mogarfilo.
Yeah, they were stuck behind the car of Mogarfilo, so they've now been able to get by him, and he's not going to be very happy about that because he may be able to get left behind. So very interesting to see there how Rocco Barone will be able to progress forward through this field, because I think he's got the pace, Will. I really do think he's got the pace to finish in the top 5 in this race. He doesn't seem to be off the pace, for one, and you look at his lap times, and his quickest lap time of the race was a 1:15.8, so that's very quick for Rocco Barone. So very interesting to see if he can progress through, but everyone trying to get past Mogarfilo now, and it's going to be very interesting to see what Stefan Michaels does, and Isaac Price also back up there now into P13, and Michaels looks to the inside, Isaac Price looked to the inside there as well, and Michaels sort of cut his nose off, and Isaac went to the outside, and Michaels came back across him as well.
Yep, got it up on your screen, battle for P11, 12, 13, a slow car around him as well. This is going to make things interesting with these drivers, and oh, Michaels just touches the side there of, I believe that was Mogarfilo. Those who were very lucky not to have ended up in the wall as they worked themselves around the lap traffic.
That's actually Rocco Barone. Rocco Barone has actually got another slowdown penalty into turn number 1.
Wow.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Wow.
I thought he'd have learnt by now. That is his 3rd slowdown penalty in this whole race.
That is a big thing there for Rocco Barone that he really needs to keep an eye out. We're going to have a look at the replay of this from on board with Stephen Michaels, because you see that actually they didn't touch, but it was very close to touching between those two drivers. And then they got around.
Now a lap down, sorry. And also Johnny Tamala out of this race. We must have missed a big incident, Will.
Yeah, we'll get a look at that in just one moment's time. We'll see what we can find out on that one. Because 3 drivers now out of the race who were running really well just a couple of moments ago.
Yeah, I think maybe Boutulib just retired when he came down pit road. He's just retired when he's come down pit road, I think.
Wow. So, not a good day there for the number 19 car of Jeremy Boutulib, and that is not what he would have wanted to have. As we continue to check in on this battle for P11, 12, 13, you've got Yunus Nakurian there in the mix as well. Now, Nakurian's had a very bad start to the season. He failed to qualify for the first event. Then, of course, he had that tangling together with Gregor Hutu. And all of a sudden, you know, his season's got better. He's got some consistency going. Running behind his teammate right now in that 13th position, young Nakurian is doing a pretty good job right now.
Yeah, he is doing a very good job, to be honest. And, you know, it's nice to see other people running in the top 15, top 10 positions, Will, because sometimes you look at normal Formula 1, you're looking at Mercedes dominations at the moment, and I think that's boring. I really do think F1 gets boring when you see one team dominate, and that's something the WCS doesn't do. You know, you never see one driver really dominate every single race of the series. So, you know, it's very nice to see new talent coming through, and, you know, Kazuki Yamashima is a big example to that. New talent coming through.
One of the things I did just notice there by Nakurian is that he takes a very long time to get on the gas pedal out of the hairpin, and I have seen a number of drivers really struggling for grip down there, and it's one of those things that some of these drivers have been struggling with all event long, and that all comes back to the weather that we have on the racetrack here today, Jake.
Yeah, that weather really not helping drivers in that last two turns, 14 and 15, because with that tailwind, Will, it's going to make them very loose on the exit of turn number 15, and that's what I think drivers are really worrying about, because you get loose, that wind is really not going to help you, because it's just going to keep pushing the back end of the car, and that's where you know you're going to be in the wall, and drivers not really wanting to end their race only now on lap number 30, so that's very good tactics from some of them, and also it is fuel saving as well, Will, because they're just coasting through there, so that's very interesting to see who's actually coasting through there to save the fuel.
Let's reset the things as they are right now then. Kazuki Yamashima leads with an 8-second advantage over Hugo Luis. Hugo Luis has 11.4 second advantage over Gregor Hutu. Then it's Kroenke in third with a 7-second deficit to Gregor Hutu. Then it's Picard, Yakola, Sturgis, Hapada and Price. They round out your top 10. Price now getting himself up into the top 10, but I have to say, ever since Picard's gotten ahead of Yakola, he's not really been able to pull away that much.
No, I think there may be a bit of teamwork strategies going on there for saving fuel for both drivers, Will, because they're not really putting away. The lap times have sort of started to average out, and they're started to stay on that solid line now, and they're going straight. And you know, they were going up and up and up and up, and the lap times were getting quicker and quicker, and that's not really happening now. Oli Baccara seems to have evened out his lap times. Maybe he just wanted to get past his teammate Alessia Yakola, but he seems to be very average now, and that's going to really affect his challenge to get into that 4th position and maybe into the top 3. So we'll have to see what he can do throughout the rest of the race.
Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, for more information about the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series, head over to wcs.iRacing.com for all of the latest news, information, interviews from both the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series and also the NASCAR Peak Anti-Freeze Series powered by iRacing.com as well. That is wcs.iRacing.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at RaceSpotTV or use the hashtag iRacingWCS. So, where's the battles for you going on right now, Jake? Because it does seem to be that Nakurian and Baroni are very close together on the racetrack.
Yeah, I think that's the only close battle really going on here is between them 3 drivers of Megafilo, Nakurian and Rocco Barone. That is the only real close battle I can see, actually, Will, because the rest of the drivers are all now starting to spread out, and it's just either teammates running together or drivers running on their own with about a second gap between the driver and front. So very interesting to see how this race has now smoothed out, and you know, all the action we had earlier on. You know, look at the casualties we got, Will. We've got 23 cars only left on the lead lap out of the 34 that started, so that's 10 over 10 drivers, 11 drivers actually, that are now not on the lead lap.
Yeah, a number of drivers are out of the race. Marcus Catan, Enzo Benito, Michele Sciazzini, Fulvio Barazzini, Yorni Tamala, Jeremy Boutaloop and Fabio De Carmo are all classified now as out of the race, and it's going to be a tough, long day watching their competitors continue along in this, the 8th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. But as we get closer to that halfway point, Jake, it's time to start thinking about pit stops, and when will this guy, Kazuki Yamashima, come onto pit road?
I don't know when the pit stop window is going to be, really, Will. I'm going to say around lap 40. I'm going to say they're going to be wanting to come down pit road if they're on the one-stop strategy, which I don't think Kazuki Yamashima is. I think he's got to be on a 2-stop strategy, Will, because the amount of pace he's got currently and the way he's running over Hugo Luis and Gregor Hutu, the lap times he's done are absolutely outstanding. 1:14.513 was his last lap across the line. That is the quickest lap of his race so far. We watch what Hugo Luis does as he crosses the line, and a 1:14.86, and Gregor Hutu, as he now comes down the home straight, we'll see what his lap time is this time by, and that was a 1:14.8, so he's really 4/10 quicker than any other driver on the racetrack, which is an incredible pace to have. So he's really got to be on a smaller fuel tank than the rest of the drivers.
But the gap is about 3 tenths per second on the racetrack. We worked that out to be about 3 laps of fuel. It's actually not going to be as close as we're thinking, I think, right now. And you've got to say, as we are so close now to half race distance, Yamashima certainly is going to be good to go for one stopper. It's going to be a case of how close to the middle of the race does he do that, as he's now working amongst some lap traffic, and that's Matt Backham, who's put out to put 1 lap down.
2 laps down actually there for Matt Backham, all gone wrong for him. We mentioned him earlier. He was actually running in the P11 position, Will, and Isaac Price actually dropping down Isaac Price into pit road. there we go. Isaac Price is the first of our pitters, so he's come down pit road now. And going back to Matt Backham, Will, he's actually dropped back into the P27 position now, 2 laps down. He did have a bit of rear wing damage, so interesting to see what he actually does have wrong with that car. And Isaac Price all the way down into P20 now after that second pit stop.
Yeah, 8.5 seconds, it was his pit stop time there for Isaac Price. He is back out and away on the racetrack, but into a lot of traffic as well. And we say in every single one of our races that you never want to come out into traffic, and that is exactly what Isaac Price has done. You don't want to do it, mainly because of the fact that you've got some new boots on you, you want to get going, and actually you're going to lose anywhere up to a second, 2 seconds a lap being stuck behind traffic. But Isaac Price does look as though he's got himself past some of it, got some more to go, and he could really be ruining his decision right now.
Yeah, that is actually our race leader of Kazuki Omishima actually out in front of him, 2 cars in front of him, so it'll be interesting to see when these cars actually do come out of pit road, because then he is going to have that advantage, remember, Will, because they're all going to go down, and so that's going to leave him with the clean air. Will Kazuki Omishima come down pit road? No, he will not. He will decide to stay out again. So very interesting strategies from some of these drivers. Whether Isaac Price did have damage to fix, though, is a question we'll have to put to him at the end of this race. But I think it was just another pit stop for fuel, Will.
Yep, and we're checking in still that battle between Mo Garfido and Jonas Sakuri, and those two are teammates, and Rocco Baroni as well. Now, the guy that we've got to pay the most attention to is Rocco Baroni, who is the one who's running in that 28th position on the, not 28th position, sorry, 13th position on the racetrack in that number 28 car. He's had a tough day of those high curbs and cut penalties here today.
Yeah, really hard day for him, and you know, not only him having a bad day with the cut-through penalties, but also Yuhu Abe now a lap down with all the cut-through penalties, and you know, it's very unfortunate for him. And I think he's actually retired. No, he hasn't. That's just the camera angle I was looking from. But very, very poor from him. He's had a load of cutting track penalties. I'll get it there in the end, and he did start in P3, his best ever qualifying position for a WCS race. So very unfortunate for him as well.
And that battle between those three carries on. However, that last time by, it was a 1 minute 15.1 for your race leader, Kazuki Omishima. And that is what the power of traffic can do for these guys sometime. Omishima now has got past it. He did a 1:15.1 last time by, this time a 1:15.3. Omishima is slowing, and that gap with himself and Hugo Luis is now down to 7.4 seconds on the racetrack, Jake.
Yeah, incredible how much that traffic can really play a bigger disadvantage into your races. Gregor Hutu will now cross the line as well. This will be an interesting gap, and that's come down as well between him and Hugo Luis. That's now down to 2 seconds. Sorry, 10 seconds on the racetrack, but 17 seconds behind our race leader, Kazuki Omishima.
And I tell you what, for Gregor Hutu, that last time by was a 1 minute 14.3 for him. Hutu is into that stage of the race once again where he is just phenomenal. And this is when he reminds you that he is a 3-time champion.
Yeah, this is really when he will remind you that he is a 3-time world champion, and he has got them trophies to prove it. And not only that, he's got that driver skill as well, as he just exits that turn at number 9, that second chicane on the racetrack. And he is an incredible driver, Will. He now comes down into turn number 11, and he's going to be wanting to push and push when he hears that call of Hugo Luis, into pit road.
Yeah, and your top 3, top 5, top 10 drivers are still circulating on the racetrack. For Kazuki Omishima, he's working himself through turn 1 right now. We are now past the halfway distance of this, the 8th round of the 2014 iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series, here from the historic, the magical, the beautiful Montreal. Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve, sat on the Ile Notre Dame in Montreal. Jake, it's been a great half the race so far. We all thought that Omishima was on a 2-stop strategy. He's not. He's had the pace in the first half of the race, but we still do think that he's going to be the first one of these drivers onto pit road.
Yeah, we do think that, actually, Will. I do think as well that he's going to be the first one down, because he's been running so fast throughout the first race. So maybe it's just a few laps short of fuel that he's taken, which could make a big difference in these cars, really. It could make a really big difference. So whether he's just taking a couple less laps than the likes of Hutu and Luis is something we'll have to find out when he comes down pit road. But Very, very good pace from him, and no one's really been able to match the pace. Whoa, really loose there from him on the exit of turn number 15. Very loose. That's what we're on about, Will. Once you get loose, it nearly takes that whole car around, and wow, he made a brilliant save there. We'll have to get a replay of that on your screens for you. As Hugo Luis now passes the line as well. We'll see what the gap's down to. The gap's down to just 7 seconds now. It was at 8 seconds the previous lap.
Very, very loose there for Kazuki Omishima. And he very well could have been the first one of our drivers into the Wall of Champions. He somehow saved it. There's so many jokes you can make about the Japanese and drift driving, but Kazuki Omishima has handled a very loose race car in qualifying, doing the same again, but his times have slowed down to 1 minute 15.11 again. Now that would have been 1:14 had he have actually not been 45 degrees perpendicular to the racetrack, but still for Omishima, this is the time he needed to push. I think that pressure is just starting to catch up with him now.
Yeah, that pressure of him leading his first ever WCS race is really starting to get to him now. Yeah, his quickest lap, Will, was actually the lap before that, lap number 36, at 1:14.4. Again, another incredible lap for him, and he'll stay out again. He'll come through that last turn and makes it look a lot better this time, a lot tidier, and we'll have to wait for Hugo Luis to cross the line and see what his lap time is and the difference is going to be, as we now see Benjamin Lindsay come down pit road, and Hugo Luis crossed the line and the gap's back to 7.5 seconds.
Yeah, it was a 1 minute 14.3 there for Kazuki Omishima, a 1 minute 14.6 there for Hugo Luis on the racetrack. So these continue to carry on, and they are still battling with some degree, but they'll be onto pit road very, very soon. Behind, you've got yourself Paul Ilbrink and Dion Vergers. They are battling on the racetrack right now. Another one of the Radical Steel Series cars battling on the racetrack, but Dion Vergers and that number 18 car isn't that far back in that Orion Race Team car.
Now that Orion Race Team car is really going to be wanting to make a move soon, just before the first round of the pit stops, and Paul Ilbrink having a really strong season so far for his standards, and you know, it wouldn't surprise me if he'd be able to actually pull the gap away after the pit stops, and that's something that's going to play into a lot of these battles on the racetrack, especially the one with Mogar Philo, Jonas Nakarian and Rocco Baroni. It's going to be a big help for some of them. For some of them drivers down pit road, who takes what fuel is going to be a big key factor, and whether drivers take tyres as well, Will, because I've not actually seen anyone take tyres yet.
Yeah, the guys who came in early, they probably didn't want to take tyres. They wanted to make their pit stop as easy as possible and also keep the heat out on their tyres, because it is a bit of a cool day here today, and I think that's something that these guys are going to bear in mind as we get closer and closer to that sequence of pit stops.
Yeah, they're really going to have to bear in a lot of things in mind, but they've got their crews behind them, Will. I'm sure the likes of the 3ID guys, Hugo Luis, Martin Cronke, you know, I'm sure they've all got their teams behind them. I'm sure Gregor Hutu as well has Team Redline behind him with their calculators all out, saying how many laps of fuel do I need to make it to the end? Do I need tyres? Do I not need tyres? You know, it's something that they have their team there for, and that's why it's a big advantage to be in a team when you're in the WCS, because when you drive it, I don't think you can really get a calculator out and calculate your own fuel while driving.
Unless you're Hugo Luis, of course.
Yeah, unless you're Hugo Luis, you need to do it for yourself, because your crew chief does normally get it wrong.
But you saw the gap there between Hugo Luis and Gregor Hutu. Hutu running in that 3rd position right now. Martin Cronke, he is running in that 4th position on the racetrack. And Cronke, I don't know what it's been with Cronke this season. He's been very close at times. Other times he's just been kind of a little bit all over the place. But not in a bad way, just not really being able to challenge for a podium.
Yeah, you say that though, Will. He was very close at Phillip Island. He actually led a stage of the race. It was a really good run for him, but he actually fell short to Hugo Luis and Gregor Hutu, the #1 driver in this series. So that was very unfortunate for him. But as you say, yeah, he has come on leaps and bounds this season, and he has showed them moments of brilliance where he can really show why he deserves to be in the top 3 in the racing, and you know why he's in the top 3 in the championship. I'm sure he actually currently sits in 3rd in the championship. I think he's about 30 points behind Hugo Luis.
We're looking on board then with Martin Cronke, and there's his statistics there up on your screen. Right now he's about 12 seconds back from Gregor Hutu. He started this race in the 8th position and now running it in the 4th spot. Of course, every single lap we're keeping our eye out to see Is this going to be a lap that Kazuki Yamashima comes onto pit road? And the answer so far is not just yet. And now with 30 laps to go, that pit window's open that we talked about 40 laps into this event, Jake. And he's gone that far.
Yeah, it's incredible how he's actually managed to go this far. And it's very interesting to see what the fuel strategy is. We expected them not to be able to go this long, Will. We really didn't think they'd be able to go 41 laps on the race. And that is some incredible fuel numbers for these cars. So whether they'll have to take a little extra fuel at the end of the race than what they were planning on, because I know drivers do spend a lot of time practicing them race stints. And there's a big crash there actually in turn number 2. Well, real big crash. That's Yuhu Abe, Isaac Price in that as well, and Timu even in all in that there. We'll have to get a replay of that on your screens there, but Yuhu Abe I think actually retiring from this one.
And this is down into turn number 1 on the racetrack. Let's see what happens with these drivers. And this is Yuhu Abe, and we say he's involved in this incident, and he is now going to be out the race. Actually, this is down into turn number 4 by the looks of it, and they just come together. Isaac Price is turned upside down as well. It's one of those things that is so narrow. This part of the racetrack. We'll go have a look on board of Yuhu Abe as well, see what happened to him. So this is the exit of turn number 1. Now down into turn number 2. You can see just 1 moment's time, he's going to try and stop that car down to the inside. Yuhu Abe, as he does so, he just dives into the corner there, then flips upside down, and he's out of the race. A huge, huge moment. 3 drivers out of the race and 1 big incident.
Yeah, really, it was a big incident, and I don't think actually Timu even or Isaac Price have actually retired. Well, I think, yeah, Timu is still running, and Isaac Price has come down pit road for the 3rd time in this race. That confidence boost from last week's podium has not really helped him at all. He's not had the run of luck this week. Well, he got caught up in an early incident in lap number 3, and now he's then just had that incident. So I wonder if he'll park that car or if he'll try and get it fixed. It looks like he's going to try and get it fixed, get a new front wing on that, and get back out on track and just run around on the raceway and stay out of people's way. I feel very sorry for Isaac. He's had a really good season so far, and this is not what he wanted.
11.2 seconds on the box there for Isaac Price. He is going to be out and away once again on the racetrack. As we see, Hyber. A couple of cars now are coming on the pit road.
Suzuki Yamashima is down pit lane.
Yep.
Our race leader is down to pit road.
So here comes Omishima. Make a note of how many laps there are. 28 laps at the line as he comes past. You can see Hugo Luis there on the left-hand side of your screen. He's about to take ahead of the race lead. But for Omishima, this is now going to be that 20 bum time for him. Go on board. Let's see what his pit stop's going to be. Very slow pit road here at Montreal. This pit road takes forever in some ways. Into his pit box he goes. 4 fresh tyres for him. He's going to try and top up with race gas as well. Let's see what it's going to be for Omishima. And as he's going to go out and away, he's looking as if he's trying to find a gear. Long pit stop actually for Omishima, but he is out and away.
Yeah, really long pit stop from him. That's going to lose him valuable seconds that he did have advantage on Hugo Luis. And it's really interesting to see that the rest of the drivers actually did stay out. So he must have been a couple of laps lighter, Will, on fuel to be able to stay out there. And his in-lap this time was a 127 dead. So it'll be interesting to see what Hugo Luis, Gregor Hutu and the rest of the guys can do on their in-lap and their out-lap. But very slow pit stop from him, and as you say, it did look like he was struggling to find a gear. And
he's also got Picard.
Oli Picaro will move to the inside there. That is down into turn number 8, and he's entitled to do that. That's very close. And Leskia Usiakola will try and get it done as well around the outside, and they both get it done on the lighter fuel road and the better tyres than what Kazuki Yamashima is.
Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. He'll get the draft on this straight away, despite the fact that he's going to have a lot more fuel on board. That's actually not going to be the worst thing for him. I was more worried about the fact that he might have got a slowdown penalty there. He was really pushed outside on that second chicane, and I'm not sure whether or not he did have to slow down or not, because Omishima has fallen off the rear from these guys just a little bit. But Hugo Luis continues on the racetrack. He's finally leading once again. Now, just for him, he's now got to control his nerves as we got 26 laps
Oli
to go.
Picaro is out of fuel, Will. Oli Picaro must be out of fuel. No, he must have got a slowdown penalty. Sorry there, Will. I thought he was out of fuel. He come to literally a halt on the home straight into turn number 1. There must have been a slowdown penalty from turn number 14 and 15. Sorry, he's just allowed Kazuki Yamashima and Alessia Usiakola by.
Let's have a look, and he did cut that out. He cut that first curb there, and we'll get ourselves another angle, see whether that will make it any better. We'll go on board there with Oli Picardo. Did he cut that curb as they come down into the corner? Looking on board of him now. He comes in, and he really did abuse that first corner. And then let's see what happens to him. He gets the note, and he just slows that car all the way down. All the way down.
Gregor Huttu is in, Will. Gregor Huttu is into pit road. Hugo Luis is still out on the racetrack, though. This is very interesting tactics from Gregor Huttu. He will come down pit road. This will be a first pit stop for him in this race. I'm sure we'll get the timing up on your screen of how long he will stay down pit road. We've got to watch Kazuki Yamashima, though. See where he comes now. He will now come down the home straight. Gregor Huttu's not even in his pit box yet, Will.
Yep, and this is a very good thing for Kazuki Yamashima, but also for Hugo Luis. We'll talk about that one in just one moment's time, because Gregor Huttu is out and away. Now, actually, his in-lap as well. It's a 127.2 in-lap there for Gregor Huttu. Where is Omishima? And Omishima is actually ahead of Gregor Huttu by some huge distance on the racetrack. This is working perfectly for Omishima. Now, it's also working perfectly for Hugo Luis. If we go 2 laps longer in this event, he potentially could take the victory here, but we're keeping our eye out on Hugo Luis. Will he go straight on this time? By the answer is going to be no, he won't. Hugo Luis will carry on for the time being. The 3ID Motorsports car is going to the lead with 25 laps to go in this event. A great move there for Hugo Luis, although, actually, we're getting word something might have happened to Hugo Luis.
He's actually been blinking out a lot through this race, Will. That is the Brazilian connection with the World Cup going on. He's actually been blinking out quite a bit. There he goes. He reappears again in turn number 5 and down that back straight, and he blinks out again. Gregor Huttu, Hugo Luis is blinking big time, but going back to that Gregor Huttu pit stop, Will, it's not normally you see Gregor Huttu slower than someone else on pit road. You normally look at an in-lap and an out-lap, and Gregor Huttu will always have the quickest in-lap and out-lap, and not at the moment, not in this case, because Kazuki Yamashima smashed that by 0.2 of a second.
And Oli Picardo has been able to get back past him once again. Again, this will not be a big issue for Mishima right now, because of the fact that Picardo, of course, is on a lot lighter fuel load right now compared to that driver of Kazuki Mishima. Ahead of him, Alexei Yusiokola for the time being runs in that 3rd place. Ahead of him, you've got Martin Kroenke. The gap between those drivers, well, that's about 5 seconds on the racetrack. And you can see Martin Kroenke working himself now down into the hairpin. And then you'll get, in just one moment's time, you'll see just what the gap is to Alexei Yusiokola. There he is, Yukola right now, running himself in that 3rd position on the racetrack. But will Hugo Luis? No, he stays out for another lap. This is going to be mighty close now between himself and Omishima. I'm having a look at the gap. It's about 38 seconds. I think Hugo Luis might have just done enough by now.
Yeah, I think he could have done just enough to stay out in front, but that's whether he nails his pit stop, Will. We have to remember Hugo Luis this season, his pit stops have been terrible, and he blinks out again. He really must have some big technical issues going on at his house at the moment, or with the internet connection. We must mention also as well, Jonas Nakurian did just come down pit road on the previous lap. He was fighting in that P10 battle with Rocco Baroni and Mogar Filo, so very interesting to see where he'll come out on the racetrack. He comes out actually P17 on the racetrack, and he's going to be wanting to push forward now and hopefully get that P10 position off of Mogar Filo.
Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, out on pit road. Will he come in? Yes, he will. Hugo Luis onto pit road. This is that critical moment of the race, and it's happening right now here on RaceSpotTV. I believe that's one of the INX cars coming onto pit road just ahead of him. But for Hugo Luis, it is time for pretty much all or nothing. Unfortunately, we are having some difficulties bringing you Hugo Luis's pit stop due to the issues, of course, that are going on in Brazil, World Cup, everything like that right now. But he is just hoping, A, his internet connection holds in, as Kroenke also coming on to pit road. We're also keeping an eye out on Alexei Yusiokola. Is he going to come onto pit road this time by as well? Alexei Yusiokola's onto pit road, and we're getting word that Hugo Luis has gone down a lap because of what's happened to him. Hugo Luis is not going to take victory here. It's going to be Kazuki Yamashima. Heartbreak for Hugo Luis once again.
Wow. Is that actually the case, Will? I can't see that on my timing and scoring. Actually, yes, I can. He's now dropping down big time through the list. And wow, that's a big upset there for Hugo Luis. Oh, wow. Another big heartbreak for him. That's his championship, Will. That has summed his championship up in a nutshell. feels very, very sorry there for Hugo Luis. But he's only got one people to blame, and that is the World Cup. And we all know that FIFA, they're not going to give his internet back. But Kazuki Omishima back out in front now. He will have a massive lead over Gregor Hutu, currently a 10-second lead on the racetrack. So he's going to have a lot of work. This is the important thing.
I'm going to interrupt you. This is the important thing. We'll have a look right now on board of Kazuki Omishima, because this would be what the gap would be. You see ahead, right there in the distance? That car is Hugo Luis. Hugo Luis would have had the race lead there. We'll get confirmation of timing and scoring as they come past the start-finish line. But Hugo Luis would have had about a 3-second lead over Kazuki Omishima. Yet it's Omishima whose stars is shining so brightly for him, because Hugo Luis is classified in the 19th position in this event. And for Hugo Luis, now there's some people who remember back to the Brazilian Grand Prix here on RaceSpotTV. They'll remember that Gregor Hutu and Oli Picala were victim of what's called a clock smash here. It was all because of Hugo Luis's internet connection, which forced him to miss a timing loop, which put him down one lap in this event. And for Hugo Luis, he is about as upset as you could possibly get.
That's incredible. I'm actually speechless, Will. He's had such a great drive. He managed to get that gap, though. He actually took the lead as well, Will. That is what's the heartbreaking thing. Oh, I feel so sorry for him. I really do feel sorry for him.
Here we are. Have a look at it. There is Hugo Luis. And you see just there in the distance, that is Omishima coming into your picture right now. That is what the gap was going to be. It was going to be about 3 seconds on the racetrack for Hugo Luis. And this is a huge swing in the championship. We'll try and see if you bet it from up above as well. Bit difficult from that angle, but Hugo Luis now classified in the 19th position in this event. And for Omishima, you see just in shot there, just out of shot there in the background, coming down to turn number 1. Omishima has really dodged the bullet there. And for Omishima, now we've got to ask the question, can he win this event?
Yeah, he really has dodged a bullet. Whether iRacing officials will put Hugo Luis back onto the lead lap is something we'll have to find out at the end of the race, Will, but that could be something that could be inflicted into this race. But yeah, Gregor Hutu now really got to make that 10-second gap down into nothing, really, because Kazuki Omishima really quick out on the racetrack. I think he's actually a 10th quicker than Gregor Hutu, our number 1 car. So Kazuki Omishima really in the driving seat at the moment, Will.
The gap between Omishima and Hutu is 10.5 seconds on the racetrack, but last time by, Hutu was half a second faster. Omishima in that first place has basically got to go half a second faster than Hutu throughout the rest of this race, and victory will be his. If Hutu does what Hutu does best, we're going to have an amazing finish to this event, Jake.
Yeah, especially with only now 19 laps remaining when Kazuki Omishima crosses the line. This is going to be an incredible battle for the race lead. Gregor Hutu, we always know he is a strong, solid driver in the last proportion of the races. Lee Thompson there just allows our race leader by stopping on the entry of turn number 1. But Gregor Hutu, I don't think he'll give up the go. The gap's down to 9.6 seconds already, Will. He's taken 4/10 off of that 10 seconds just within the first lap about talking about this. So this is going to be very interesting to see towards the end of the race. But Martin Conke, I don't really think he's going to have anything to answer to Gregor Hutu. He's 20 seconds behind our race leader, 10 seconds behind Hutu. So I don't really think he's going to be able to push for a P2 position, maybe the lead. So I think he's going to happily settle for the last place on the podium.
Gap last time by, a 1 minute 14.6 for Gregor Hutu, a 1 minute 15.1 for Kazuki Omishima. If it stays this way, then Hutu will be all over the rear of Omishima as they come to the white flag here at Montreal. We're going to step aside for just 1 moment's time, then we'll be right back with our continuing coverage of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series here from Montreal. We'll be back in just 1 moment's time.
The NASCAR Peak Anti-Prix Series powered by iRacing.com has officially begun. It's all in control of Brad Davies in that 11 machine. Green flag flies. He's damn near banged up though. Now the 93 is going to push the 4 of Brian Day all the way up the wall. 4 wide down to super stretch point in the front. And now the 93-39, the 3 machine goes around. Big trouble in the back. It's going to be the race to the win up front.
Look behind him. They're 3 and 4 wide, trying to make a push to the front as the field gains speed in turn number 1. Kenny Humphrey, if he can rip it back to the start finish line, will win here at Daytona.
7 laps to go.
Oh,
As you love it.
here we go.
You love it. The 0-1 gets around. The 5 gets around. Big jump.
Well done, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our continuing coverage of the 8th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series from the circuit Gilles Villeneuve here in Montreal. Will Vincent and Jake Cameron still here in the booth, and the big story of the race, you've got to say, Jake, is all about one guy and one guy only. That number 3. Prix Motorsports car of Hugo Louise. It's just not been his year this year, because now he's classified 1 lap down in this event after no fault of his own, and let's not forget, he came out ahead of Kazuki Omishima and is pulling away from him.
Yeah, I feel really sorry for Hugo Louise. It's heartbreak for everyone who follows Hugo and for him and his team. He was in such a good position. You know, he would have had a massive lead now. I think the gap would have been about 4 or 5 seconds now, Will, looking at it on the racetrack, and I really do feel sorry for him. But enough of the heartbreak, we've got to look to the front now. Gregor Huttu.
Yep, Gregor Huttu is charging. That gap is now down to 7.9 seconds on the racetrack. And Gregor Huttu, that last time by a 1 minute 14.5 to a 1 minute 15.3 there for Kazuki Omishima. Huttu is coming, and he is coming in a big hurry, Jake.
Huttu is the master of the last last stint, sorry. He is going to absolutely annihilate this time down to nothing. It's 4 seconds, Will. 5 seconds on the racetrack.
Oh, because Omishima's had an issue. Omishima had an issue. I think he might have got himself a slowdown penalty. And under the pressure, all of a sudden, Omishima makes his first big mistake of the race. That last time by for him, it was, get this, a 1 minute 18.241 for Kazuki Omishima.
Wow, this race is really playing into Gregor Huttu's hands. We thought it was playing into Hugo Louise's hands. Then his hands just got taken out of this equation, and now it's playing straight into Gregor Huttu's hands. And wow, Omishima is really starting to crack under pressure. He was in the driving seat, wasn't he, Will? He was about 10-11 seconds out in front and driving home really hard and consistent lap times, and now he seems to be dropping off on the lap times of 1:15s, 1:18 as well for his last lap. Very interesting to see what he will do now this time by as he comes down the home straight into turn number 14. He won't cut that this time. Into turn number 15, really big cut there. I don't even think he had 4 wheels on the racetrack. Could that be another slowdown penalty there for him?
We're having a look, and his speed seems good. 1 minute 14.7 last time by there for Kazuki Omishima. A 1 minute 14.5 there for, actually no, it's a 1 minute 15.2 for Gregor Huttu. So that time by Omishima was faster. Now, there is something we do want to talk about very quickly, Jake, because remember, in the middle part of that stint last time by, Omishima wasn't able to pull away from Hugo Louise as he was at the start. As we get down to closer to 10 laps to go, that is where Omishima's car comes back into its end. And this comes back to something we talked about with Prix before. Their car doesn't work at the end of the stint. Some cars don't work well at the start. That running racing car, that number 43 of Kazuki Omishima, has just got to hope that that red line car fades. You see it right there in the background there, just at the very end of this event.
Yeah, he really needs to hope that red line car is no good near the end of this, you know. I think Omishima is looking in his mirrors every single corner saying, where is Gregor? I reckon he's on the team radio saying, where's Gregor? What's the time difference? Am I good? Am I good to the end? Because he's cutting them curbs a lot in turn number 15, Will. He's going to make a mistake. It's going to be horrible for him. He's going to make a mistake soon if he keeps cutting them curbs, and you know it's going to be a slowdown penalty that is going to cost him the race win, and the gap is still sitting at 5 seconds.
Yeah, last time by, the gap between those two drivers, well, it was pretty much nothing. And Kazuki Yamashima last time by, he did a 1 minute 14.648. Gregor Houtu, he did a 1 minute 14.571. That's a tenth of a second. That's okay. It's when you get down into those numbers of about 4 or 5 tenths that things are going to be an issue. And I'm actually doing the math in my head right now. Houtu needs to be 4 tenths of a second a lap faster than Yamashima to catch him. Then when he catches him, he's got to be a little bit faster to get past him as well. And we know that Houtu struggled in Sector 1 at the start of this race, getting past Andre Borcher.
Yeah, that was the only place he really tried to attempt to pass, and I can't really see Gregor Houtu attempting to pass anywhere else except from turn number 1 if he does gain in on the back of our race leader, Kazuki Yamashima. So Houtu's really going to have to think about his way around Yamashima if he manages to catch him. So 4 tenths of a second, Will, that's actually a lot of difference to make up, but one mistake from either driver is going to make or break this race. And you're looking in front of Kazuki Yamashima, look at the amount of traffic he has got in front of him. Alex Simpson there, Simon Cattell, you've got Hugo Luis there as well, Dion Vergers, Robin Friscops, Paul Ilbrink, they're all in front of him by about 2 seconds. And that's the battle for 13th, all the way down to 18th, Will. Yeah, there's a lot of blooming cars there.
There are, and we were just having a look actually with Paul Ilbrink, and he is right there in the mix of it right now. He's having a great battle with Robin Friscops in that battle for the 13th position on the racetrack. But as Yamashima catches them, this race is going to get critical. And Yamashima did struggle in traffic a little bit earlier on. We've really got to hope that Yamashima is able to get this one going. This is where Yamashima is right now on the racetrack, down at the hairpin. He works himself through the hairpin, and Gregor Houtu now just coming down into the hairpin himself. So that is the gap. It's 4.1 seconds on the racetrack, and that last time by, Yamashima is the one who was slower again, and it was by, get this, 7 tenths of a second. So Houtu all of a sudden is back into the picture. You can see him at the rear end of your screen. He is coming in the way that only Gregor Houtu knows.
They're 3-1.
Oh my, no man, don't do that, guys.
This is not what he won. Oh, this is going to end in tears, Will. This is really going to end in tears. And Simon Cattell now filing in behind Hugo Luis, that was there, going 3 wide. Hugo. Give him some room, please. Simon Cattell there allowing Yamashima by. The gap was down to 3.8 seconds on the racetrack, Will.
And let's not forget,
this is not what you want to see.
Let's not forget, there are blue flag rules in operation in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. This is unlike, of course, what you would have in normal iRacing events. This guy, Hugo Luis, in the 17th position, after the incident he had, he now has to allow Yamashima to go past him. What a turn of events for Hugo Luis.
Yeah, real big turn of events, but he doesn't seem to be allowing it. So whether he may think he's still on the lead lap, Will, is something very interesting.
Remember Oli Picard? Oli Picard at Interlagos, exactly the same thing.
Yeah, it was. It really was the same thing. But as I was about to say, Will, you look in Yamashima as a mirror, and all you can see is Hugo Luis there does actually yield on the home straight away into turn number 14. You look in Yamashima's mirrors, though, Will, and all you can see is a lot of Gregor Houtu's blue and silver coming. Yeah.
And let's get a replay of that there with Hugo Luis allowing Yamashima to go past him. And you see, it was just on this straightaway. He just moved out of the way. And Hugo Luis allowing there Yamashima to go past. It's going to be more interesting, I think, when Gregor Houtu comes up behind. Let's be honest.
Yeah, it is going to be very interesting to see what Hugo Luis will do. But Hugo being Hugo, he is a fair and clean driver. I'm expecting him to just move out of the way and allow Gregor to go on his way, and that gap now will down to a 2.7 second on the racetrack, and Gregor actually seems to be getting held up there a little bit by Simon Cattell down the back straight.
This is what I was thinking. This is what I was thinking. Is this where Senna-ness comes into it? Because of course you always hear back in Grand Prix history that when you saw that bright yellow helmet, you would just dance out of the way because you knew exactly what it was. Of course, Gregor Houtu, he has that bright blue helmet, and this is exactly what we were talking about, because Houtu is actually now right behind Hugo Luis' battle on the racetrack. And for Gregor Houtu, you see that bright blue helmet there right at the bottom of your screen? When drivers see that in their mirror, they know it is time to move out of the way. And for Hugo Luis, will he do it before turn 1, or will he wait until after turn 1? You see, drivers are getting out of the way already for him.
Yamashima has a slowdown.
Oh my!
Sorry, you just missed it there. Omashima has a slowdown penalty. Gregor Hutu is right on the back of him now into turn number 1. What an eventful turn of results in this. He got a cut-through penalty through that turn number 15. I said to you, Will, he is cutting it too much, and actually he did get loose in turn number 11 as well. Very unfortunate for him, but he seems to be dragging that gap out again through turn number 5 into turn 6. Now 7. He's got lap traffic. Alex Simpson that is in front of him though. He's got to get away from Gregor Hutu. Gregor Hutu will be bearing down in his mirrors. He knows all the tricks in the book. Alex Simpson will not yield this time though into turn number 8.
Yeah, we saw the replay there of what happened to Kazuki Omashima, and that allowed Hutu within touching distance of him. Ladies and gentlemen, if you think that the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series gets a little bit boring at the end, think again. Because this is what it is. 10 laps to go. You've got Omashima. You've got Gregor Hutu. They are separated by just 0.6 of a second. Can Omashima all of a sudden in one race become the most popular driver in this series, or will it be Gregor Hutu winning once again? And again, cutting those curbs is Omashima. He has done everything he could in this event. You can see in the background, that is Gregor Hutu right behind him. We have got to ask the question though, is this now the time that Hutu in that dirty air can do no more?
I don't know what you mean, Will. He can do no more when he's in dirty air. This is Gregor Hutu we're talking about here, mate. He can do anything in dirty air. He can do anything in clean air. This is going to be a race to the end. This is going to be incredible, but we've got to remember the gap was extended to 0.7 seconds on the racetrack, so that's just 0.7 of a second, that gap now. It was 0.3 of a second the lap before. But you got to remember, from Gregor's point of view though, if I was him, I would be sitting a little far off the back of Kazuki Omashima, because he's been getting very loose in some of the bends, and you know, if you're right on the back of him when he does get loose, you know, that's going to end both of your races and hand it to the 3ID guy of Martin Conquet.
And let's not forget, Hutu is battling for a championship, Omashima is not. So for Gregor Hutu, he doesn't have to win this event. He can be very happy coming in second place, knowing the fact that he has got Hugo Luis well down the field right now. On board with Hutu down into that final chicane. There's the World Champion to the right hand side. Again, cutting the corner. Both of those drivers, this time by 8 laps to go in this event. And the gap, well, is about half a second on the racetrack. This one is so close to call, Jake. And I'm going back in my head to that first round of the championship between Hutu and Luis. That time it is Luis that made a mistake, and that's what kept Gregor Hutu in the race lead. Will we see Hutu make a mistake to give this one to Omashima, or will Hutu do what Hutu does best?
I really don't know who to call it there, Will. This gap is going from big to small, then from small to big. It's changing every single lap on the racetrack. I don't know who to put my money on, Will. Who would you put your money on, Hutu or Omashima?
This is one that I think is going to be so close to call. And I tell you what, for anyone who's seen Kazuki Omashima this season, you'll know he's had a couple of small mistakes, but he has never been under the pressure like he is under right now. As you see, as they work themselves down that back straightaway once again, on board from the rear there with Kazuki Omashima, he actually gets better traction out of the hairpin. That is something we should bear in mind as these laps come to a close. But I'm just commentating with the hugest smile on my face. We have never had a battle so fascinating in this series. Omashima, let's not forget, is a rookie in this series, Jake.
Yeah, this is incredible stuff on the racetrack, but Omashima really does need to be a bit more careful through that last turn, Will. If he keeps cutting like that, he's just going to get another slowdown penalty and hand this race away to Gregor Hutu. So he needs to sort his line out, and he needs to do it a lot sooner than what he is, because the way he's running it really close there to the wall in turn number 4. Wow, what a move. What is he doing? He's getting so close to the walls. He's losing his head, Will. I'm sure having the 3-time world champion in your mirrors like that is really losing your head.
That is exactly the point I'm going to make. Will Hutu try and make the pass, or will Hutu try and pressure the rookie into a mistake? Because Hutu, again, he doesn't need to win this race. He does not need to do a silly move down the inside. And of course, remember, Hutu struggled to get past Borcha at the early stage of this race. But we all know what the pressure of a 3-time world champion is going to do behind you. So in many ways, Hutu just needs to sit there, stalking, and he could end up as race victor anyway, because we all know that Omashima has had a couple of very close calls in this event.
Yeah, he really has, and you know, Gregor Hutu, I think if he does manage to get right on the back of him, he's going to struggle anywhere on the racetrack to be able to pass, because he does have that longer 7th gear than what Kazuki Omishima is running. Omishima seems to have that better top-end speed, managing to get a 310 mile an hour top-end speed on his own, whereas Gregor Hutu is only doing 311 with the draft. So Omishima really does have that better 7th gear of the 2 cars on the racetrack. And also this does come down to fuel as well, Will. Who has a lighter fuel load and who has a heavier fuel load? Has Gregor Hutu got a little more fuel than what Omishima has, or has Omishima got more than Hutu?
Well, we are going to apologise, ladies and gentlemen, for not showing some of the action that's going on the racetrack right now. You have got a very good battle going on right now between Robin Friscops, Dion Vergers on the racetrack. They're battling for 14th position on the racetrack. There you see those 2 guys on the racetrack right now. Friscops in the 37, Dion Vergers in the 18 car. You've also got Mogar Filo and Rocco Barone. They are battling for P9 on the racetrack, but we are going to keep it with that battle for the race lead between Omishima and Gregor Hutu, because this has such a big championship implication for Gregor Hutu. This has no championship implications at all for Omishima, but he has a chance to really stake a claim like no other driver has done in their rookie season, saying, I have arrived in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series, this time by 5 laps left to go for Omishima to try and hold on, Jake.
Is this going to be like 2 weeks ago, Will? Is it going to be like Isaac Price, a rookie taking a podium from the experienced guys? Is he going to be able to do it? I think he can now, Will. He's got that pace. He's got a 7/10 of a lead. It keeps stretching out to 7/10, down to 4/10, 3/10, then back to 7/10, 8/10 of a second on the racetrack. You know, that gap is always constantly changing, and not only that, you mentioned that battle up front of the Dion Vergers, Robin Friscops and Paul Ilbrink. They will be catching them drivers within the next lap or 2, so that traffic is going to play a big part into this race lead and the winner of it.
I did see, we were riding on board there with Gregor Hutu, I did see a very close call there for Omishima. Let us know what you're thinking about this race on Twitter at RaceSpotTV. Use the hashtag iRacingWCS. And this is now that important phase. I was just about to mention it actually, because Omishima, he's always struggled when he's behind traffic. Now he's got 3 cars between himself and victory, and I think in dirty air he's now got to be careful going through the chicane. One small twitch and it could be race over for him. He's got to get past this traffic methodically. Hutu is still there in the background. There's the first one of those cars out of the way, letting both of them go past. Omishima down into turn number 1. 4 laps left to go. The gap between these 2 drivers, 7/10 of a second. Anything, and I mean anything, can still happen, Jake.
Anything can really happen, and this is incredible racing on the racetrack. The gap stayed at 7/10 of a second this time by. Gregor Hutu seems to be dropping off a little bit. Whether that pressure in phase has sort of gone from his mind, I don't know, but he's getting closer every bend, and then he'll drop off in turn number 11, and that's where he needs the pace. He needs to be in that draft with the wind advantage. He has to be there, Will, because then into turn number 14 and 15, he can get the exit, he can get that move made in turn number 1, but it doesn't look like Hutu has enough.
He's closer.
He's only got 4 laps of this wrap. Yes, he is closer though, but I don't think he's close enough, Will. He mistimes his bend, he goes really wide. What is it? Oh, this is all going wrong for Hutu now, but he's actually managed to regain that. Wow, that was a mistake there from Hutu. If he wants to win this race, he can't be making many more of them mistakes, but he is a lot closer now as they come down into turn number 14.
He's got the draft! He's got the draft! He's
not going to make a move.
Right. He's just pushing it. Oh, Omishima! Omishima hits the wall! He hits the wall of champions! Gregor Hutu goes to the race lead with just 3 laps to go in this event. And what a turn of events here as Hutu now leads from Omishima. What a huge, huge moment there for Kazuki Omishima. We're going to replay up on your screen. Wow!
Wow, we better just say sorry there to headphone users, Will, because he just went mental. Oh my god, what has he just done? He's just thrown this race away. He has been absolutely incredible throughout this whole race, and I said it, Will, I said it over and over again. He was cutting the curb too much, and look what it's done. It's ended his race, and oh, I feel so sorry for him. 2 heartbreaks in one race, Hugo Luis, and now Kazuki Omishima.
Yeah, you saw it. He had just a little bit of pressure from Hutu. He just whacked over that. He hit the wall of champions. And for Kazuki Omishima, it is game over for him. And the chance of getting this race victory. He is now still about 7/10 of a second behind. In fact, he's losing more time now And is that Omashima very sideways for the World of Champions once again? I think it was. Omashima is really still trying to carry on. All he has to really do is just trying to keep this car in one piece with now just a couple of laps left to go, Jake.
Yeah, he can't go for the win anymore. He was actually doing very well after the first incident with 2 laps to run. Or 3 laps to run, sorry. He was doing very well to keep on the back of Gregor Huttu, but now he has dropped all the way off. He's now got a 1.5 second gap between him and our new race leader, Gregor Huttu. Well, Gregor Huttu's just had it handed to him in this one. Hugo Luis first. He just handed it to Kazuki Omashima and Gregor Huttu, and now Omashima has just handed it to Gregor Huttu on a plate. You've got to say that whether Gregor Huttu deserved this race win or not, Will, I don't know, but he has drive a good race, but I think Omashima has just gave it to him.
I completely agree with that one, but let's not forget, you know, luck means so much in racing, but at the same time, you make your own luck. And this is, ladies and gentlemen, the reason why this guy, Gregor Huttu, is a 3-time world champion. It's because of races like this, and it's the fact that he didn't try and make a pass on Omashima. He just put the pressure on like only he knows how. And ladies and gentlemen, this time by 1 more lap to go for Gregor Huttu here at the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve. And Huttu now just about 75 seconds away from taking yet another victory in this series. He's got a little bit of lap traffic to deal with on this lap. He gets through that car okay, no issues at all. But for Gregor Huttu, it was a race that it could have been such a different story. And Gregor Huttu now just got himself half a lap to go, and he will get himself victory. But you cannot, and I repeat, you cannot take anything away from Kazuki Omashima, because he got pole position in this event. He had an absolutely sterling first part of this event. He came out of the pits ahead of Gregor Huttu. He made some small mistakes to put Huttu back into the picture, but for 90% of this race, it was Kazuki Omashima who set the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series on fire. Now for Gregor Huttu, he's just got 2 more corners to go, and it's that run down the back straight away, and then that run down into that final corner for the final time for Gregor Huttu before he will get another victory in this series. Down the back straight away he comes for the final time. Here he comes into the final chicane for the final time. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why Gregor Huttu is a 3-time champion. It's moments like this, because he wins once again in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. Omashima will come home in a well-deserved second place, with Martin Kroenke now coming out of that final corner to take 3rd. And then Alexei Yusiakola coming down into the final corner now. He will claim 4th place in this event, with his teammate Oli Picard right behind him to round out your top 5. But Jake, heartbreak for Hugo Luis, heartbreak for Kazuki Omashima, but I've almost lost my voice. What a race we've had here today at Montreal.
What a race we have had it all, and Huttu there taking his 4th race win, as I was about to say, 4th race win on a trot, 5th win of the season. He is back to dominance. Gregor Huttu dominates in Montreal again. Absolutely incredible. I feel sorry, so sorry for Kazuki Omashima. He did it so well, but only Will if he'd have listened to the stream. If he'd have listened to what I was saying and told him to stop cutting the curbs, he could have done it. Very unfortunate for him, but that's where it comes down to experience, Will. Where it comes down to experience.
Ladies and gentlemen, there is your winner. Right ahead of him, you see the guy he beat, Kazuki Omashima, in that blue and black car. Now, there are going to be many new fans of Kazuki Omashima after this event. And Kazuki, I think that what you're showing here today is that with the pressure of 3-time champion behind you, you can make mistakes. People make mistakes in Grand Prix racing all the time. However, today, you still did a great job coming home in that 2nd place on the grid. What a race we have had here today, Jake.
Incredible, absolutely incredible. Words do not describe this race, Will. You just can't describe how this race have gone. You know, we went from Kazuki Omashima leading to the pit stops, Hugo Luis stretching his fuel to then go a lap down, Kazuki Omashima taking the lead again, Huttu gaining the gap down to 0.3 seconds on the track, then Omashima hitting the wall of champions. And that's one thing that Gregor Huttu would have been praying for. He is a champion, and that wall of champions has helped him big time.
He really has indeed. I think we need to take a breath after that.
We need to calm down, I think.
I'm
flustered.
I think we really need to do what a race it has. And don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, let us know your thoughts on Twitter. Use the hashtag iRacingWCS and follow us at RaceSpotTV as well. Don't forget also you can like and subscribe the video and let us know your thoughts in the chat as well. But let's show you some final race results, shall we? After all was said and done, it was Gregor Hutu claiming victory here today in that Team Redline car, taking victory from Kazuki Omishima. Martin Kroenke coming home in the 3rd place with Alexei Usiakoda in 4th and Oli Picana rounding out your top 5. Jake Sturgis in 6th, Andre Borcher in 7th, Ilka Parda in 8th, Rocco Baroni in 9th, and then Mogar Filo rounds out your top 10. On to page number 2, that's Yunus Nakuri and a great showing by him in 11th. Stephen Michaels, not a top 10 for him, but a strong result in that Twitter racing car in 12th. Paul Obring 13th, Robin Friskops in 14th, Dion Verges 15th, and then Simpson in the 16th position. The guy who's going to be so disappointed with this, Hugo Louise, 17th place. We'll talk more about the reasons why in our post-race coverage. And then Simon Kittel, Martin Patila and Paulo Mulia round out your top 20. The rest of the results coming up on your screen. We will be back in just one moment's time for our post-race show here on RaceSpotTV, because I've got to say, in my 2.5 years commentating this has been one of the craziest results that we've ever had. And this again shows why Montreal is possibly the greatest racetrack in the world. We'll be right back after this short message.
The NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing.com has officially begun. It's all in control of Brad Davies in that 11 machine. Green flag flies. He's damn near banged up though. Now the 93 is going to push the 4 to Brian Day all the way up the wall. 4 wide down the super stretch point in the front. And now the 93-39, the throwing machine goes around. Big trouble in the back. It's the race for the win up front.
Look behind him. They're 3 and 4 wide, trying to make a push to the front as the field gains speed in turn number 1. Kenny Humphrey, if he can rip it back to the start-finish line, will win here at Daytona.
7 laps.
Oh,
as you love it.
here we go.
You love it. The 0-1 gets around. The 5 gets around. Big choke.
Well done, ladies and gentlemen. We've taken a breath. Welcome back to this, the 8th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series, and welcome to the RaceSpotTV post-race show. Will Vincent and Jake Cameron here. Jake, we don't have the chance to talk when we're off there, but what a race we have had, and also, I think that there are now many new fans of the Japanese sensation that is Kazuki Yamashima. We all said that there's no way he's going to win the race. That's before pit stops. But I tell you what, he was about as close as you possibly could come to taking victory.
Well, incredible from him. Absolutely incredible. You know, you can't take nothing away from him from what he's done today. He's had an incredible drive, and I'm sure he's gained a lot of new fans from his race today, because it's not normally you see a driver, a rookie driver of that, take the pole position, lead the most laps in the race as well, and you know, he fell half-hearted at the end of the race, and that's unfortunate for him.
Let's get one more classification. I'm going to say that again. I don't know how to commentate anymore. Let's get one more look at your final race results, and this is how it is. Gregor Hutu getting victory there by a time, well, of about 4 seconds over in the end, but over Kazuki Yamashima. Martin Kroenke third, Alexei Siakoda fourth, Oli Picard, Jake Sturgios, Andre Borchi, Ilko Pardo, Rocco Barone, and Mo Garfido, they round out your top 10. Rest of qualifying, rest of the race results coming up on your screen as we speak. But Jake, it's going to be so fascinating to get a word of a couple of these drivers, because there's been so many different emotions going on today. Some guys had really good races, some guys not so good as well. And of course, the biggest heartbreak of the day is that guy in 17th position, Hugo Louise.
Yeah, it's absolute heartbreak for him, and wow, it's going to change the championship so much. I don't know what to say about Hugo. I don't know how he's feeling right now, Will, or anything, but to go a lap down after he did so much fuel saving and managing to get out in front of Kazuki Yamashima, and then for it to all come crashing down because of his internet connection, because of this stupid World Cup, then wow, I don't know what to say for him.
I tell you what, without trying to go into something too political, we all know that a number of people in Brazil don't like the World Cup already. I think if your name's Hugo Louise, I don't think you like it anymore after this event. We are going to get a word with a couple of drivers. Before we do so, don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, visit wcs.iracing.com for more information about the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series with great driver interviews, all the latest news and features. Visit wcs.iracing.com. You can follow us on Twitter as well, at RaceSpotTV. Use the hashtag iRacing WCS. Now, we're going to start by having a chat with one of our good friends. His name is Alexei Siakoda. Now, Alexei, not the day you really wanted today.
Well, I will. Well, actually, qualifying was just disaster. This track where you cannot overtake or do anything, basically, just follow the car in front of you and try to keep the car out from the walls and stuff. So, well, yeah, bad qualifying, 11th position there, and got a pretty good start, and after that just followed the train, which was pretty slow, and did a couple of mistakes there, and sorry to Jeremy, I think he lost his car when he was avoiding my spinning car or something. But yeah, pretty much disaster like Virginia was, but still fought in the finish, so can't complain.
Can't complain. Now, qualifying's been a bit of an issue for you Glacier Racing guys all season long. In fact, we'll drag up Oli Picard into the conversation on this, because qualifying, the first part of the season, you two guys struggled in it. Then you got it sorted out around Suzuka and Road America, and you kind of fallen off it again. Is there any real reason why, or is it just the rate of development that you guys are having to do? And of course, remembering this is your first season in WCS competition.
Well, it's this track. Montreal is so hard, and you need to jump and take huge risks to fast laps. So, as we saw, Suzuki and Juho, both Japanese drivers, both excellent talent, and took it great laps in qualifying, and Kazuki were second in the race. So it's just in Phillip Island, Suzuka, those tracks are so much easier than these, so there you can push more in the limit, but here you need to drive a little bit under the limit and avoid any risks. So, Well, need to learn about that.
Well, of course, normally it's 2 weeks between races. This time it's 1 week. Silverstone, 7 days time. You guys prepared for it already?
Now, we started this Montreal pretty late also, so well, let's see. We just do what we do normally, start Tuesday or Monday, and let's see what can happen.
Well, well done, iWCGPS coming home in the 7th position. Jake stood by. He is going to have a word with the teammate of iWCGPS. That is, of course, Ollie Picard, who came home 1 place behind him. Jake.
Well done, Ollie. Good race for you today, really. Not one of your strongest performances, but all qualifying, really. But you really did pick up that race pace in the end, and you had some solid lap times down onto the board. And what sort of strategy were you going with?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think I had a pretty good race pace, and qualifying was a bit better than the last few races. And we thought that we would go quite heavy on fuel, even if we are in the 3rd row or more back, because it's pretty difficult to overtake here in Montreal. So that was our strategy, and if we would have been in the front, we would have gone maybe same strategy as Kazuki went, or a bit longer. But it's a difficult act to maintain. Think about the strategy and qualifying. It's in everything, as you saw in this race.
Yeah, strategy really does mean a lot in all of the WCS races, and we've not seen the greatest run of form for you recently, so this is going to be a big confidence boost to the rest of your season. Obviously, Virginia International Raceway 2 weeks ago, you took that early exit and retired from the race, so will this 5th place position boost your confidence?
Well, I came here in the Montreal without any pressure. Like you said, 3 last races has gone pretty bad for me. So, yeah, I don't know if it's a confidence booster. I think I'm as confident I has been always, but it's about handling the pressure when your first season in this series. When you're going to the qualifying session and in the starts, that it's everything that you can handle the pressure and don't fail in the starts and qualifying. So yeah, I think I would have chance to P3, but unfortunately I got 4 slowdowns for nothing. Don't know how I got those, but yeah, this happens.
Yeah, a lot of drivers suffering from that slowdown penalties in this race, but you being a rookie yourself, you obviously took that win at Road America as well. So do you know what pressure sort of Kazuki Yamashima was actually under while he was leading the race and had the likes of Gregor Hutu closing down on him?
Yeah, it's a huge amount of pressure. Kazuki haven't have that good season at the beginning. The first 5-6 races didn't go for him so well. So I think when you are in the front row on the pole position and maintaining the lead for a long time, it's pretty difficult spot to be. And like I remember from Road America, the pressure is high, and you just need to try to keep up somehow your pace and go pretty fast laps so guys wouldn't overtake you. So it's tough spot.
Well, congratulations on your 5th place finish, and anyone you'd like to thank or anything else?
Of course, thank you, and thanks to Alexis, both Uusi Jaakkola. He made a good help. He was good help. Thanks to sponsors Glacier TV and Data Litter, and of course Aleksi Eloma, who couldn't race today. He has been the guy behind the scenes. Thanks to Eloma, he's the best.
Well, there you have it then. That is our interview done with our 5th place driver, Ollie Bakara. I'll hand you back over to Will, who I think is standing by with Martin Kroenke.
I'm not actually. I'm stood by with someone else first. First of all, I have to apologise to him for probably blowing up his eardrums along with the rest of you. But team principal for Team Redline, Dom Duhan. Always great to have a chat with you, Dom. But it was a close one for you here today. How was it for you and Hutu?
Well, obviously it's a great win for Gregor. I think he was really jammy. I think that's the first thing that he posted as soon as he came into our channel, saying jammy win. And I think he'd be the first to recognise that. Both, obviously, Hugo's desperate luck, and I hope iRacing can fix this next season. And secondly, obviously, Suzuki driving at maximum attack, having a few brushes with the wall and mounting those curbs hard and enjoying his slowdowns. So, I mean, it was really jammy for Gregor, but, you know, he just kept an even pace throughout. I think once he got past Andre, he managed to start matching the gap with Hugo, and you know, Hugo really had it in the bag. It's really unfortunate.
Now, it was good for Hutu. It wasn't so good for Enzo Benito, and he's had a really tough season so far. Take us through what happened with him.
It's just been up and down for him, hasn't it? Just looking at one of the screens that's been posted, I can see that he got mounted quite hard, but you know, it all comes from qualifying, and if you qualify further down the pack, then there's more chance of an incident, and unfortunately that happened to him. But you know, he's had, for kind of a rookie into the series, he didn't do that much last year. This season, he's had a few podiums, and you know, he's had a pole position as well. So I mean, he's definitely got the pace. But this is a killer track. I think everybody would be the first to admit that.
Yeah, and I talked at the top of the broadcast how this really is what we call a road track mixed with a street track, and Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve is kind of unique on that. Now, as far as the championship goes, of course, Luis had a bad day, Hutu had a good day, but we go to Silverstone in 1 week's time. And before I actually go there, an interesting tidbit is that in the 2 races that we've had here, this is the only track ever that Hutu has never qualified in the top 5 2 races in a row.
Really?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
I know.
I didn't know that. Thank you for that. I've got to say, this season is a season of changes. I mean, Hugo had never won at Brazil, and he won at Brazil. Gregor had never won at Spa. He won at Spa. There are things happening all the time. There's new drivers on the scene, and that is just the change in all of it is fantastic to see.
But Silverstone, of course, 7 days' time, and for Redline, the development crew that you normally have isn't as big this year. Of course, last year you had Luke McLean in the mix, you had Atsi Kirchhoff as well as Hutu. Is that going to be a bit more difficult for you, the fact that you've only got 2 guys running for the Redline camp this season?
Well, it does. There is a challenge there, absolutely. I mean, Atsi's really strong with setups, and certainly, even though Gregor and Atsi run completely different setups, they could still learn from each other. Enzo brings some new thinking to the table, but you know, he's new to the scene, so it's going to take a while. But absolutely, does make a big difference, and I do think the next race, just in 7 days, is going to be quite difficult for us, at least. Gregor's moving house, so I think he's going to have a few issues getting some practice in. But you know, we know the track, knows the track like the back of his hand, so he should be competitive.
Can he make it 5 in a row? That's the question.
Greg always seems to do really well in this mid-season bit, doesn't he? So I wouldn't put it past him, but I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. I think this is a track where I think Hugo won last year, or he's really strong last year, and I think there's going to be opportunities to overtake here. Well,
Dom, as always, thank you so much for talking to us. For those of you who are wondering why we don't get an interview with Gregor, we only get an interview after Gregor wins a championship. It's the way he's always been, the way he always will be. But Dom, thank you very much for talking to us. Always great to have you here on RaceSpotTV.
Cheers, thanks guys.
Jake has got Martin Kroenke with him in just 1 moment's time, but before we get to that, we're just about to get one more replay of that final couple of lap moment when Kazuki Yamashima hit the wall. And again, it's so heartbreaking for Kazuki leading that race, but you said it, Jake, he was taking a lot of that curb, and it does seem to be that's the fast way of doing this race, to really take a lot of the curb here. Just didn't work out that lap for Kazuki.
No, I really did wish he was listening to the stream, because I was saying it over and over again. Stop cutting the curb. You're going to end your race, or you get a slowdown penalty. And, you know, I feel very sorry for him, because he deserved more out of that. He deserved in. He was the strongest car on the racetrack all day long. No one could touch him except from Hugo, obviously, who came down pit road a little later than everyone else. But still, I think Omashima would have had a big advantage over Hugo on them colder tyres. So, yeah, unfortunate for him, but that's the way the cookie crumbles.
It really is, unfortunately. So we're going to get a replay of it up on your screen one more time. This is that race lead as Gregor Hutu was able to get past with just a couple of laps to go. Fascinating story there. And Omashima, very bad luck to him. However, you are stood by, Jake, with Martin Kroenke, who again had a consistent result here.
Yeah, I have got Mr. Martin Kroenke standing by, and a great result again for you. You seem to be ringing in these results now in the middle stage of the season. Is it something you've changed on your strategy?
No, actually not much. It's just last race was a bit unlucky because my equipment failed. I got some replacement now, and yeah, things went a bit better. Although it cost me quite a lot of practice time because I only could start practice this Monday due to equipment issues.
You had equipment issues, was it, at the Virginia International Raceway that caused you to fell back a lot of positions there quite early on, and you know you managed to get a good finish in the top 10 though, so that still scored you points. You currently sit third in the championship. That finish today on the podium will really help you as well push for that top 3 on the podium of the championship at the end of the season. Is that something you still got your hopes set on as well? Could you be able to challenge Gregor Hutu and Hugo Luis for a championship at the end of the season?
Looking at the current point standings, I maybe could challenge Hugo depending on his luck, which hasn't been that great in the last couple of races. But looking at the gap, I'm almost 100 points behind Gregor now, and it's only 8 races to go. Yeah, 8 races, so yeah, it's highly unlikely, unless in the last couple of races I think you cannot have any drop weeks anymore. So maybe if Gregor has some bad luck in the last couple of races, maybe, but yeah, if he doesn't have any bad luck, I guess it's pretty much impossible to get him.
But that's good to hear though, that you're not giving up on it, so you will still be hunting him down, trying to get that top position of the championship table. So today's race, really, what was your strategy sort of like? Because we saw you started to slow down at the early stages. You were running along with Borcher and Gregor Hutu. You were stuck behind your teammate of Borcher, and he really did slow you and Gregor up a little.
Yeah, he did. He just, I guess, didn't really get into a good rhythm in the beginning of the race. Yeah, and I guess he tried to keep Gregor behind to maybe open up a gap for Hugo, but eventually Gregor got past, I got past as well. So yeah, strategy was basically just because my qualifying was pretty bad, go for a lot of fuel and then do a long first stint. Worked out quite okay, but couldn't really pass anyone in the pits.
We did just hear a little hint then of team orders being given out from Hugo to your teammate of Andre Bocciala to slow a little bit of Gregor Hutu down a bit.
Well, I guess it wouldn't be a team order. No one has said so that he should do it, but I mean, he was fighting for position. It's his good right to do so. Obviously, a side effect of it is that he slows everyone down behind him, including Gregor, which in this case wasn't really bad for Hugo, but didn't make much of a difference anyway in the end. It's
A bit like Irvine.
No, it really didn't.
A bit like Irvine Schumacher in 1997 Japan. You know, you're not blocking someone, you're not necessarily, you know, doing anything unsportsmanlike, you're just defensive driving, and that's one of the things in this series, especially for the Free ID camp. I think, you know, they have got the drivers to do so, but of course doing it in a very clean and calculated manner, not a way that would bring the sport into disrepute. So I can completely understand your logic on that one, to be fair. I'm going to step in and ask the question because I can. We talked about the difficulties with Dom a moment ago, having just 2 active members in the championship this series, as we've got just a 7-day break between now and Silverstone. In fact, this has been the shortest distance we've had in WCS, I think, ever. You guys, you've got a number of drivers. You've got yourself, you've got Hugo Luis, you've got Andre Borcher, Martin Patila, Yorni Tamada, all able to develop the setup for 7 days' time when we go from Canada to Silverstone. Is that an advantage to you guys?
maybe, yeah, we have more people to actually test out stuff. But to be honest, it's only Marty and me who actually really do the setup work. The others are very good drivers and can give good feedback, but I think they lack a bit ideas when the car doesn't behave like one wants it to behave. I think they just lack the idea what to change. So yeah, it might be a slight advantage, but not a huge one. It's not like everyone is building on the setup.
Well, very interesting points. Jake, anything else?
No, not really. Anything you'd like to say and to any of your sponsors or thank yous?
Yeah, I would thank our sponsors, for Racer and IGP Manager, and besides that, I would also like to thank Marty for doing pretty much all the setup work for this race, because I was pretty much focusing on getting my equipment running and couldn't really contribute to make the car faster. And I'd also like to thank Leo Botner and his business partner John Beeson for providing me a wheel in a very fast time, so I could actually race. It was not sure whether I could race or not. They were very quick in delivering me something, and yeah, thanks to them.
Well, congratulations on your podium position. Hopefully we'll see you challenge Gregor Hutu for the win next week at Silverstone. Back over to you, William.
Yeah, what a race we've had. I'm still trying to take this one in, actually. Championship implications, of course. Gregor Hutu now has 318 points, Hugo Louise 241. A big advantage there for Gregor Hutu in the championship. But we've got to remember the fact that Hugo Louise came out of pit road ahead of Kazuki Yamashima.
Yeah, he did come out in front. That Brazilian connection let him down, didn't it, Will? So there's nothing you can say. You know, we can keep on and on and on about it, but there's nothing you can really say about it except from it was hard luck. You know, the luck's not been with Hugo for the last couple of weeks, with his pit stops, with his crew, you know, not having enough fuel, having too much fuel. He's not had the luck in the past couple of weeks, and I'm sure that luck will turn for him soon, because every driver has that bad spell, and that's what he's going through at the moment.
But a race that he knows he should have won, that surely is going to have either one or two effects. It's either going to basically make his season go into meltdown, or he's going to come into Silverstone in 1 week's time as a Hugo Louise we haven't seen in years. He will just be fighting like there's no tomorrow, because he's been in this position before. He's never won from this far back a championship, but he's had some very good results when he's in that phase of he's got to make sure he wins races.
With the team he's got behind him, the 3ID team and the guys he's got with him, I'm sure that it can push him in the right direction. I'm sure they'll give him that confidence boost and say, Hugo, don't give up yet, mate. It's not over. I'm sure they will do that, and you know, I'm sure Martin will just butt in here quickly, and I'm sure that is something you do in your team, isn't it, Martin, to encourage him, because you know he can still do it.
Yeah, I think he knows it as well. He knows what he can do. He knows that he can win races. He just needs to, needs the right luck to actually do so.
Well, this has been it, and it's a very fascinating race that we've had here today. And ladies and gentlemen, just a very quick reminder before we go, that the next round of the iRacing.com NASCAR Peak Entry Series, powered by iRacing.com, will be June the 17th at the Michigan International Raceway. We're going to go racing there for 125 laps. It'll be live on PSR TV, MRN, the Motor Racing Network, and of course on iRacing Live. We'll be back, however, in just 7 days time for what will be round number 9 of the 2014 iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. Today, it was a race of many different things. We had ourselves Kazuki Yamashima getting pole position, leading for 95% of the race before it all went wrong in that famous Wall of Champions. For Gregor Hutu, it was a race that we thought he wasn't going to win on 2 different occasions, but again, he came back and showed us why he's a 3-time world champion. For Hugo Louise, it's another race to forget. He came out of pit road ahead of Yamashima, however, he's got nothing to blame except for Brazilian internet when the World Cup is on. Thank you very much for being a part of our action here today on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live. For more information about the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series, head over to wcs.iracing.com for all the latest news, information, interviews, and everything else. And don't forget, check out my report on iRacing News in the next couple of days as well. We'll be back later on with ISOWC action from Texas Motor Speedway, but in the meanwhile, we'll see you in 7 days' time here on iRacing Live and RaceSpotTV, as this has been a RaceSpotTV presentation of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. Myself, Will Vincent, from Jake Cameron, thank you very much for being a part of our coverage. We'll see you all in just 7 days' time. Congratulations, Tutu, and also, what a way it has been for you here today, Kazuki Yamashima. What a run you've had. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
The NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing.com has officially begun. It's all in control of Brad Davies in that 11 machine. Green flag flies. He's damn near banged up though. Now the 93 is going to push the 4 of Brian Day all the way up the wall. 4 wide down the super stretch point in the turn. And now the 93-39, the 3 machine goes around. Big trouble in the back. It's the race to the win up front.
Look behind him. They're 3 and 4 wide, trying to make a push to the front as the field gains speed in turn number 1. Kenny Humphrey, if he can rip it back to the start finish line, will win here at Daytona.
7 laps to go.
Oh,
as you love it,
here we go.
you love it. The 0-1 gets around, the 5 gets around. Big